Hey guys, Matt here from License to Watch. Yeah, I know, you've heard it all before. License to Watch has a Patreon, and for just $1 a month, you can subscribe and get exclusive bonus content. I know. But you know what? I may not have told you guys this very important detail. It's only $1 a month. Actually, it only costs $1 to sign up. You don't even have to subscribe. You could just pay $1, download all of our episodes, and then cancel. But you know what? You'd miss us after a while, and you'd come crawling back for another dollar, baby. So you might as well just subscribe for $1 a month and hang with us. You'll hear us covering great movies like Rudy, Scarface, Star Trek Next Generation movies, Hard Boiled, Cliffhanger, Twister, Dune, Loaded Weapon 1. That was the latest one we did. And we've got some awesome ones coming up. I can't say what they are, but you will love them. So if you like us and you've got money to blow, go to www.patreon.com/L2W today and sign up for just $1 a month to be our lovely patrons. That's www.patreon.com/L2W, which is short for License to Watch. You idiots. Just kidding. We love you. Please sign up. Bye.
For real, C-Rock?
Following the runaway success of the first film, Warner Bros. Greenlit a Lethal Weapon sequel and commissioned original screenwriter Shane Black to write it. 6 months later, Black, collaborating with novelist Warren Murphy, turned in a script called Play Dirty. Play Dirty upped the violence and bloodshed, with multiple scenes of torture and murder and a climax that featured Riggs sacrificing himself to take out the bad guys. Years later, Black would call it the best thing he ever wrote. But Warner Brothers, producer Joel Silver, and director Richard Donner disagreed. They hoped for a feel-good follow-up to their buddy cop hit, not a grim bloodbath that kills off the main character. Black was so devastated by the rejection that he offered to return his $250,000 salary, before his agent nixed that idea, but he refused to rewrite the script. So screenwriter Jeffrey Boehm, who had done an uncredited comedy punch-up on the first film, was brought in to rework Black's concept. Boehm's script kept many of the major plot points but dramatically changed the tone, emphasizing comedy and the chemistry between the two leads. Boehm's other notable change was expanding the role of corrupt CPA Leo Getz. Thanks to Joe Pesci's performance, the character became a fan favorite and series mainstay. Lethal Weapon 2 premiered in July of 1989 and was an immediate hit with audiences around the world. It was the third highest grossing movie of that year, after Batman and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, making $228 million on just a $30 million budget. The critical reactions were more positive than those for Lethal Weapon, and it is widely considered the high watermark for the franchise. But what did we think? That's what you're here to find out. So gather up your South African Krugerrands, make sure you've got some diplomatic immunity, and prepare your toilet for a massive explosion. Join me, Matt McGregor, along with my co-hosts Harris McCabe and Colin Shaw, as we investigate the first of several sequels to this classic action film franchise. This is 1989's Richard Donner classic, Lethal Weapon 2. This is a show about franchises. Action movie franchises. You're listening to License to Watch.
Why in the world was this movie made?
Got to do the thing where we do we go on three, or is it three and then go?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Kristian, how do you want me to introduce you as like YouTuber, or like what's your like official?
Your personal idol, the man you worship in your sleep.
Yeah, huge cock.
You can just call me TV news producer / YouTuber. I don't know, whatever.
I think you just leave all this in, and he can
just leave all this in.
Yeah.
Why not?
That cock part.
Yeah.
Well, we'll do a bit at the end too, where you could like You could do a plug for your show.
Cool,
and
cool.
You could stick a plug up your butt, too.
Nice.
All right, welcome to the show. This is License to Watch. I'm Matt McGregor, and I'm here once again with Colin Shaw and Harris McCabe. Joining us today for our Lethal Weapon Dose episode is a good friend of mine and YouTuber Kristian Odland.
Hello.
What's up, dude?
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Well, yeah, of course. Welcome. I hope you're ready to talk about late 80s action.
Oh, 100%. This is my religion.
Harris, Colin, how you guys doing?
Good. This is maybe the latest 80s action there is.
Yeah,
Summer
you
of
might say
89.
there's no 80s later than this. Maybe holiday 1989, like Christmas time.
Yeah, but what would that have been?
I'm sure there's something. There's an Indiana Jones. There was a License to Kill Bond movie that came out this year. That might have been a Thanksgiving drop, as they usually are.
That's the latest.
So yeah, I think I dug this movie more than the first one. Is that unusual, or is that generally the gist?
I knew
that-
you would say that because it's funnier.
Yeah, I think the general consensus is they stepped up the comedy in this one, and some people would think that was to their disappointment, but some love it. I mean, I like it.
It just felt like a more cohesive movie to me. Like, you know, in hindsight now, the first one is like about this guy who's unhinged, and like they kind of just they throw that out the window in this one. He's just a regular guy. I mean, he gets a little unhinged at the end. They kind of bring that back.
He's still psycho.
Yeah, I mean,
He lives
is
in
like
a van down by the ocean.
Yeah.
yeah.
In this one, they transfer his mental instability into just being kind of an asshole. Just altogether, not a guy you'd want to hang out with. I
He's
think
chasing cars on foot. He's like popping his shoulder out left and right.
Yeah,
He's
they kept with
escaping
a couple of themes from the first one of him just being able to outrun cars. That's like a solid Lethal Weapon trope now.
This movie kind of predates Tom Cruise sprinting down the streets meme. So did he like kind of set the bar for Tom Cruise? Because in 1 and 2, he's like, if this car's not fast enough, I'm sprinting after this thing.
I think
Like
I think I remember being in high school and me and my friends having this conversation about like who is the best movie runner, and us all deciding it's Mel Gibson, and he runs in every single movie, like Ransom. Every single movie you have him like pumping his arms and running like a maniac because he does it so well. And I think Tom Cruise like probably looked at that and was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that now. Except as we've mentioned, Tom Cruise has totally Yogi Bear form where he's like upright and head back.
Right.
As someone who's like revisiting these movies, and like this is actually my first time ever seeing this movie, but I've seen the kind of parts of the first one, and I'm pretty sure I've seen 3 and 4. But I generally know like the vibe that these movies have. But like as someone who's revisiting them after many years of not having seen any of these movies, I'm kind of shocked at how many similarities it has to the Die Hard series. Like even in like the way they do everything, you know, like the main title at the beginning of the screen is like at the beginning of the movie, Lethal Weapon 2, and then it like flies at you. Like I'm pretty sure Die Hard 2 does the same thing, and that came out like the same year or the year after or something like that.
No, you're right. Like even the gunplay is very Die Hard-esque. In fact, I think I read somewhere that they used the same Beretta prop in this movie that was used in Die Hard 1 for the next 3 Lethal Weapon movies.
Some PA just like runs it over between sets.
Between sets.
Is
and
Joel
it was-
Silver produced both of them?
I think so, yeah.
We should look that up.
I know I don't know his name, but it was scored by the same person.
Oh, that was the other thing I was going to say, is that the music sounds
It's
the same.
very Die Hard-esque, especially in 2.
Well, I didn't get to say this before, but as someone who's from Texas, running full speed in cowboy boots is not something you want to do. That's not the ideal purpose for that shoe. There's a reason the sneaker is different,
Joel Silver did actually produce the first 2 Die Hard movies, so that might explain a lot of the similarities.
Look at that.
Also, I grew up wearing cowboy boots as like my regular everyday footwear, and the greatest thing about them is like once you get done with the initial discomfort, they kind of mold themselves to your foot and they become as comfortable as like wearing a pair of socks. Even with like the wooden heel and everything, it becomes very comfortable to run around in them, walk around in them, stuff like that. And when I was younger, I used to actually, like, if there was an occasion where I had to like jog down the street or run full speed or get into a foot race, I would do it in cowboy boots. As an adult, like once you hit like 30-ish, the entire idea of like doing damage to your feet and like breaking tiny bones, like now I've got like these padded orthopedic, like I put insoles in all of my sneakers. It's bad enough that I wear sneakers every day, but I have to have like a gel insole in all of them just so my poor little tootsies don't get damaged.
I mean,
I'm just picturing your giant calloused feet, Harris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just realizing like you really did wear cowboy boots for like childhood and adolescence, like every day, and
Pretty
you
much
were
born in
like
them.
that guy.
I still have them in
love
the
that-
closet. I will not put them on again though because they're just too damn uncomfortable. So like there's just no support.
Why
I
does
love that-
Mel Gibson wear cowboy boots as rigs?
I think it was an
Whose
80s
choice was
thing.
that?
Like, if
Okay.
you were like a badass, like on the edge, like edgy, I wore cowboy boots with jeans.
It's the edgy late '80s starter pack. That's what you're
Yeah,
saying?
totally. Untucked flannel shirt, butt tight jeans, and cowboy boots.
Do we know that it's not a nod to his Australian heritage because he's like the accent is regressing? We joked
yeah.
about
Oh
a
my
couple of
God.
lines in the first movie that he like slips out of his accent. This one I feel like he wasn't even trying to do an American accent for about like 30-40% of it. It's just like line after line.
Yeah, the scene where he is cooking and talking to Murtaugh's wife, it's like he's not even trying to sound
Right.
American at all. And I'm just like, what the fuck is happening here?
Did you guys catch that? So what's this chick's name again? The one who
Rika?
plays the
Vika?
psychiatrist?
Rika?
No,
No, damn.
no.
Mary Ellen Trainor?
Oh, the lady that's like the mom in every 1980s and 90s movie.
Yeah, Mary Ellen Trainor.
Yeah. She was
In the
one,
last
too,
episode, I mentioned that she was in a Tales from the Crypt episode. That's like a famous one where Santa Claus is like trying to kill her. He's like surrounding her house or whatever. And then later on in this movie, after like I'm pretty sure it's like the scene or two after we've seen her, it's on TV in the background, and you like see her.
Oh,
the Tales
wow.
from
That
the Crypt
exact-
episode
That's right,
is
it's
on
in-
the TV in the movie.
Like,
Yeah, you didn't catch
Riggs
that?
is watching it, right? I think so.
What?
Yeah, I think it's like right before they watch the
when
condom
they,
commercial.
Yeah, when they switched to the condom commercial.
Yeah. I
That's
thought that
funny.
was a weird choice, but Richard Donner did produce Tales from the Crypt, so that's totally why they did that.
Oh, I get that.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice that a bunch of those gold coins did not have anything on them at all? Like they were just like blanks.
They're just arcade tokens.
I kind of wish the movie started the same way, but they were arcade tokens. And I didn't understand until way after the movie was over what they actually were. What is it, Krugerrands? I was like, why do
Yeah.
they keep saying Krugerrand? Who is that? Which
Yeah.
character is that?
Freddy Krueger hands.
I was like, who the fuck is Freddy Krugerrand?
I don't know about you guys, but every time I saw Dean Norris's character in this, I kept thinking of Total Recall, the guy with the messed up vagina face that's like, go
Yeah.
through
Oh
this
yeah,
hole.
that's him.
But
Not
I know
many
he's
people know that's
better
him.
known from Breaking Bad. But it's so funny how a lot of these movies in this era, it's like the same 10 people in every movie.
Yeah, Vasquez from Aliens is in this.
Yeah.
And we got, what's his name back?
Oh, and that African American guy who plays one of the agents in Die Hard, he's in this too.
He's
Harris,
a staple
what's his
on
name
this
again?
show.
Yeah, Grand L. Bush.
Yeah,
Grand L. Bush.
Yeah.
Yep. The Vasquez from Aliens thing, I knew that she was the mom from Terminator 2. I remembered
Right.
that. And I recognize her because she looks the same. When you said the other day that she was Vasquez from Aliens, I was like, what? That's incredible. That's nuts.
She's
And
a James Cameron staple. She's also the Irish woman on Titanic.
And how do you like that for like a career? Like she really didn't do a lot other than that. I think she did Near Dark, the Catherine Bigelow movie. But then she did like 3 great like action movie staples. And the Dean Norris thing, I just feel like it's because the Total Recall one, I forget that it's him all the time because he's got so much shit on his face. This one, it's like, oh my God, yeah, it's Hank from Breaking Bad as like a baby. And
I
he's
always
still
revert
bald.
to that because I've seen Total Recall like 1,000 times. So.
Yeah.
Kuato lives.
And as a teen, it was specifically one scene 1,000 times, if you know what I'm
Yep.
saying.
Did you when you got old enough to think about what political resistance groups were? Did you get disappointed that you couldn't join one with Kuato in it?
Seriously.
Who's the equivalent of Quato today? Like Bernie
There
Sanders?
is none, and that's why it's so disappointing. That's why
It's
there's
some
no,
guy we've
like-
never heard of in ISIS, and he actually has one of those little things in his chest.
In
and that's what
ISIS.
makes him special.
Watto
That's what
wasn't
he's such an
evil, though.
effective recruiter. He's like, no, but here, talk to this head coming out of my nipple.
No,
I know
man.
you're not trying to establish a new caliphate, but listen to this. This guy's got a lot of interesting things
Did
to
you
say
guys?
about it.
Did you guys think this movie started kind of strangely? Like it was this jarring, like, boom, they're in a chase. I don't know.
chase?
It just felt kind of
And he's just like screaming. He's like,
Yeah.
whoa, I
I
love
think
this
the-
movie.
And then that weird like Looney Tunes twist on the theme as they're going
Yeah,
into it.
I was
like,
gonna
what
mention
is
that.
this?
I think the assumption is you watch the first movie, you know what you're in for. Why beat around the bush trying to like slow play, like ease yourself into this one? Just we're gonna have a crazy car chase just right off the bat, and then eventually Riggs will run the car down on foot.
The tagline for this movie is "The magic is back."
Mm-hmm.
Like they just were like, hey, the first movie was absolute magic, and guess what? It's back,
back.
baby.
Hey, the
I
first
say
movie
no
did
more.
well, so cha-ching, cha-ching, we're cashing in. No
Yeah.
surprises.
Yeah, I was telling Matt if I was a big movie producer, I would just put that on every single movie poster of any movie I came out with, no matter what the content was, no matter if it was
Even
a
if it's
sequel
not a
or
sequel.
Yeah, not a sequel, nothing.
Yeah.
And just if anyone challenges me
magic
on it,
is
I'm like,
back.
you just don't have magic in your life without my fucking movies. Go
So
see
then
them.
on the third movie, you say the magic is back again,
Yeah, and that's what literally
and then you
Lethal
just
Weapon
add
3
again
says.
Yeah.
every time a new movie
The
comes.
magic keeps coming back. You can't get rid of the magic.
It won't stop.
The magic, you guessed it, still here.
yeah. Eventually, I get to the magic is still back.
The magic is still back again.
And then eventually, Magic Johnson is co-starring.
Then
in it
like
with-
they're just mixing up words. It's like here, magic back still.
Yoda's writing copy for your ads.
The title
Big Latin.
character is gonna be Maggie Stillback.
Maggie's still.
Maggie Stillback. Maggie
Oh,
Stillback
man.
was a great movie. It's sort of like Aaron Brockovich, but like way more awesome.
It's basically just Erin Brockovich, but she takes her top off.
That was the only movie I could think of where the woman's name was the title on the spot. So
So when I was watching this, I don't normally watch movies like this with my kids, but I in all truthfulness, I fell asleep when I was watching it the other night. So I watched the last part of it during the day, and my kids walk in and they're like, "Hey, it's the bad guy from Home Alone."
Oh,
And
Oh, Joe Pesci. Yeah, I'm
Leo
like Mel
Getz.
Gibbs.
And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, it is. Get out of here. This isn't for you. Don't watch this movie."
I was gonna say you watch this with your kids.
No.
yeah, it's a bad guy
Speaking
from Home
of the
Alone. He's being
cast.
tortured for his crimes against the McAllister family. That's why he's duct taped to that chair. They're burning
You
cigarettes on his
sticky,
hands because he was
you
bad
sticky
to the
bandit,
McAllister.
son of a bitch.
Daniel Stern's in
That's
the
what
other room
happened.
getting the same treatment. The wet bandits cannot be allowed to rain terror in this neighborhood any longer.
Daniel Stern. They just cut to him. He's dead. He's got a bullet hole in his head.
No, just he's on the ground with a paint can, just smashed his head, just skull bits of
He's
skull
wrapped in
everywhere.
plastic.
Yeah.
so grody. Speaking of the cast, the bad guy in this movie, was anyone just thinking about how he gave Gordon Bombay all those sticks and skates in the Mighty Ducks the whole time? Because I certainly was.
That's a great franchise that we should cover, by the way.
I am not sure I've ever seen a Mighty Ducks
I've never
movie.
seen a Mighty Ducks movie.
Yeah. I
Not
don't think
one?
have.
I mean, I haven't seen them since I was like
Maybe
I was
like
like-
the first one in elementary school. I don't remember it.
That's one of those things that I was like a couple years old for it to be like, like people that are a few years younger than me love those movies, and it's like a pivotal point in their life is like, but if you're just a couple years too old, they're goofy and stupid.
Yeah.
And I was just like, just missed that window of Mighty Ducks being meaningful to me.
Yeah, when I was 10, I probably watched it like 50 times. So,
Also, fucking hockey. I'm an American,
oh,
That's just
That's
for
what-
Canadian kids who want Disney movies.
that's what's so funny is they clearly cast the bad guy in Mighty Ducks as like a Southern football coach, but he's just doing hockey instead. Like they just cast a guy that does like Southern football coach, and he's like, oh, we'll just have him play hockey.
where I grew up, hockey is huge, and it's like hockey and baseball were like all anybody talked about in high school and stuff. And like I don't know many people who like follow the NBA really growing up. And then I was kind of shocked moving out here how many people like are super into basketball, like all three of you. But yeah, that's kind of shocking. I mean, hockey I guess is maybe like an East Coast thing or like
It's
at
definitely
least the
like
Northeast.
I was in a weird pocket of Connecticut where we weren't rich and we were in the middle of the state. So I think like other places had hockey teams and stuff. Anybody who wanted to play hockey in my school had to like go to another town and join a different team because we were a football and baseball school really and wrestling.
Yeah, same here.
So it was like kind of like the weird little blue collar suburbs in Connecticut. But I think around us, hockey was big everywhere else. Vermont, New Hampshire, all those places are big hockey places. So
yeah. I feel like you got into basketball because of your height and your height alone.
Exactly. No, there weren't a whole lot of basketball fans where I grew up. Also, we didn't have any professional sports teams near us. So you kind of had to like, if you didn't jump on that Patriots, Red Sox bandwagon, you were kind of out in the woods.
Yeah.
You said wrestling, and I'm just imagining you like walking in there in the leotard and those cowboy boots, and like taking the cowboy boots off.
It's
to
called a
jump on the
singlet.
mat.
It's called a
Yeah,
singlet.
whatever,
They would
singlet,
not let me
whatever.
wear the boots when I wrestled.
No, but you got to walk up to the mat with the boots on, and then you take the boots off, and they clearly see how stinky your socks are before you step in, and then you
I
basically
actually
already
think
won.
because we had a really good wrestling program in our high school. I think at middle school they always encouraged everyone to like wrestle. I think we did like a wrestling week in gym class or something to see if anybody had potential and enjoyed it. And aside from the fact that it's just a disgusting idea for me in general to like grab some other person and like be that close to another human being's body, I'm just opposed to that altogether. And but like also I have such a high center of gravity, it was immediately apparent that even the smallest, lightest, weakest child could pin me within seconds, and they're just like, Harris, go away from here and don't ever think about wrestling again. And I was like, it's mutual, I'm out.
Put your boots back on and get out.
Hit the basketball court.
In those
Wait,
boots.
did any of you guys wrestle in high school?
I joined the wrestling team in 7th grade, I want to say, and I was in it for a couple of weeks, and I was a little fat kid at that time, and
They just covered you in garbage bags and made you run around the hallways.
Yeah, lose weight.
When do I get to wrestle? Keep running, fatty.
They made me wrestle the biggest kid. He was like this kid who was like double the size of me, but I was like double the size of him this way, I guess.
Just fall on him. Just fall on him.
So I was just getting pinned like constantly. And I was like, okay, this sucks. So I actually quit. I was like, fuck this.
I don't know. Are we continuing to go with
I was
wrestling
just gonna
stories, or are we
say-
going to move back to the
Yeah,
movie?
do we all have some like tangential connection to the
My-
I was just going to say, quitting high school sports is extremely underrated. I think nobody should be forced to do some bullshit high school. Like, and there's all these kids who put pressure on themselves to like keep doing these sports. I think the smartest thing you do if you're not digging that high school sport is just be like, you know what, I fucking quit. I'm out.
Dude, no one quit more sports when I was a kid when we were kids than me.
Mid-game, Matt just walks off the court. He's just like, no, I'm done. I'm out.
My parents signed me up for Little League Baseball. I was in maybe like, 3rd grade or something like that. Maybe younger, even 1st grade. I don't know how the fuck old I was. But there's a famous story where my parents were like, there watching the game. And I'm like supposed to be in the outfield, and they're like looking for me, and they're like, "Where's Matt?" And there's like a playground like in the distance, and they look at the playground, and there I am, like wee, like going down the slide or whatever.
I'm picturing
They're
Matt
like,
alone
"Oh,
on a
fuck."
seesaw, just that one. Just baseball glove is still in his hand.
I don't need friends.
I don't know if we should go with the wrestling thing or actually go back to the movie. I'm torn here.
If you have a wrestling story, this is the time to tell it.
Okay.
It may not happen again.
When I was in high school, my stepdad...
This will be cut
Okay,
for
yeah,
time.
probably. Yeah. My stepdad, he was like unemployed for like a little bit, so he decided to start doing substitute teaching, and so occasionally he would teach at my high school, but never a class that I was in. And then after he did that for like a little bit, he met whoever the wrestling coach was at our school. His name was Martinez, I think. I forgot his first name. And he was like a Spanish teacher / wrestling coach. And he's like, well, I used to wrestle back in Indiana, and I was pretty good. And maybe I could help you out. And so he like became assistant wrestling coach volunteer-wise. And so, yeah, like a bunch of people in my high school that I knew had wrestled my stepdad. And it was just weird. And eventually
He does this weird thing where he sticks his thumb up your butthole.
At least it was they'd wrestled your stepdad, not your stepmom. If everyone knew wrestled your stepmom, that's a different story.
Well,
At least they arrested your stepdad in like a school envilement with supervision. Because if they were just randomly, it's like, oh, I arrested your stepdad the other day. In what context?
yeah, he's just
In
We all
science
just go over
class.
to
What?
down to your basement after school. Your stepdad just has kids over to wrestle.
he just parks in the school parking lot and
just
then
recruits them.
and confronts kids and brings them back.
Hey, you want to wrestle? Nice car. Christian, you ever join the wrestling team?
No, my brother did. I just played basketball in high school.
Smart.
I had friends
Very
who
smart.
wrestled, and I would always feel bad for them down there in those leotards.
Yeah. Oh my god, it's the worst.
It's called a
They weren't always super flattering, and that's everyone in the stands that went. That's all they talked about. They're like, "Look how that's riding there."
I mean, and it's serious. Like, you can be hung as hell, but when you're like flaccid in a singlet, it's never that impressive. And it's like they're so tight, you can make out like the head, and there's at least nothing.
It's
to
like
imagination.
definition. Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
seeing
you're not
it.
even
see, like,
mentioning how
birthmarks.
far up the butt crack they go, which is extremely far.
I remember there was a kid in high school who he wrestled, and he was like a big wrestling team guy, and but he was a little dude, like stature wise, and he had really tiny little nipples, like he didn't have areolas, really, just like little nipples. And I remember his nipple got ripped off in a wrestling match. Someone like scratched it or something, and it came right off.
Does it grow back? What happened?
No, he had like a weird fucking like stitch there instead of a nipple.
He had
like
like
he
a
had to
blank
get it
teeth.
Maybe
stitched
that was
up.
some like weird trophy system for his opponent. He's like, "I'm gonna rip off every opponent's nipple and keep it on my desk at home."
He's like
I
Willie
feel like
Mays,
missing
he's
nipple.
nailing nipples up on the wall.
I feel like if your nipple is that small and tenuously attached, it probably wasn't meant for like a full lifetime of being there anyways. It was something was going to rip that nipple off eventually.
Is this
It's like
an
a skin tag
evolutionary
at that
argument?
point.
Are you making your way towards like eventually people will be nippleless? Is that where you're going with this?
He actually might be. He might be.
Future.
This kid might have been a future man because we don't need the nipples. They're basically just residual from our past. They don't function. The kid.
Have you guys
didn't
ever
need
had
his
the desire
nipples.
to milk anything, like or to feed anything? Your milk.
No, to suckle something. Suckle
Yeah, that's the
something to
word,
my
suckle.
to my breast.
Yeah, me
No.
neither.
Should we summarize the plot of this movie?
Yes, let's please.
Yeah, let's do that.
We're so far from Lethal Weapon right now.
You guys didn't know you came to a movie podcast, but now we're all wrestling all the time.
Yeah.
We're talking
That's
about
what it's all
wrestling,
about.
nipples, singlets.
Come for the movie, stay for the tangents.
All right, 2 minutes. Matt, you think you can bring it in under 5 this time?
I'm going to try. I'm a little more prepared this time.
All right, ready?
Okay. So we start off with a bang. It's a high-speed chase, a dual high-speed chase. Riggs and Murtaugh are chasing a blonde guy, and then some other cops are chasing some other guys. It quickly turns into chaos as there's helicopters, and the bad guy that they're chasing, or the bad guys that they were chasing, get whisked away. The one bad guy crashes his car through a storefront and somehow escapes. It doesn't make any sense, but they find a bunch of gold coins in the trunk of his car. At work, we meet a bunch of new cops who are not from the first movie.
Except for Grand Bush.
Except for Graham Bush, exactly. Riggs is up to some crazy comedy antics. He's escaping from straitjackets. He's popping out his shoulder. It's funny. This movie's funny. It's got jokes. So we meet the bad guys. They're South African. They're drug dealers or something, although we never see any drugs in this movie, and it's kind of confusing as to what crime they're actually committing until the end. Murtaugh's daughter is in a condom commercial. Jokes. The bad guy who got away in the beginning, who's also from Aliens, he gets shot in the head and wrapped up in plastic. He walks into a room full of plastic. If you see that, people walk away. You're about to get shot. Let's see. They're the ski mask bad guys. They go into Murtaugh's house and they start throwing the word Kaffir at him, and we don't know what that means, but they say it a bunch of times, so we understand that it's a racist slur. We meet Leo Getz in a hotel. He's a witness that they have to protect because they're taking off the other thing for some reason because they cause too much damage. Speaking of damage, they throw Leo Getz out the window as they're trying to stop a bad guy. They all land in the pool. Everyone's okay. No one's cut with glass somehow. They all live. There's a stilt house. That's where the bad guys live. It's like this cool LA house. It's like up on stilts, and you just know that it's going to come tumbling down by the end. God, there's a toilet bomb. Murtaugh almost dies on the toilet. Oh my God. There's this hot blonde chick who Riggs bangs, and then she dies at the end. Vasquez gets blown up on a diving board, and then there's a shootout. There's a shootout on the docks at the end, and it's great. Okay, diplomatic immunity revoked, and then this movie ends on a fucking Colin level pun. Thank you. I'm done.
Very good. Much better. Vastly improved.
And then Vasquez dies. You did not establish there was a Vasquez at all.
He said there was a bunch of new cops. He said there was a bunch of new cops, so we're going to give him credit for that one.
Okay, all right.
The most important thing was that he mentioned the diving board explosion in the summary,
It's a
which
key
yeah.
moment of the plot.
You would think it's a minor point because, you know, you don't necessarily need to know it to know all the other stuff that happens, and yet it seems like one of the most critical moments of the movie.
I have so many questions.
I got the biggest laugh out of me. Yeah. There are a lot of questions. So how should we dive in here? Let's talk about the villains of this movie. There's a few. What?
How should we dive in?
Yeah.
Carefully, because we don't want to get exploded.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you meant we're gonna tiptoe around the racist slurs that they throw around.
Oh, no, we got to do that too. He's blick.
Yes.
He's
He's
blick.
blick.
But sir, you're blick.
So apartheid is bad. That's the gist I'm getting from this movie.
Yes.
Joe Pesci mocking the South African accent, saying "bleck" is maybe my favorite of the Joe Pesci lines in the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, my least favorite is Joe Pesci saying, okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's annoying.
That's the whole character, though.
Yes, that's exactly, this is my problem. That's
But I
the
feel like for
entirety
every
of the
scene
character.
where that drives you crazy, it usually ends with him getting a really hard punch in the face.
It's true.
Yeah.
Which
There
is
is a lot
very
of
satisfying.
yeah. I mean, I think there's a little give and take there. It's like, okay, yeah, we're gonna torture you, but then we're gonna make it worthwhile. It's catharsis, is what we're talking about. This movie is very cathartic in the way it handles Joe Pesci's character.
If I'm not mistaken, the part when he says they fuck you at the drive-thru, that becomes like a recurring bit, right? They do that in the other movies?
That's got a callback in the fourth one.
Don't
When-
spoil
that's
it.
it?
Don't
Yeah.
spoil it. Come on,
Yeah.
guys.
Oh, okay. All right. You know, is there another callback in the fourth one? Because the fourth one is the only one I've seen in the theater, and I seem to remember him being Mel Gibson being underwater at like a dock, and he pops his shoulder out and he like pops it back in. But then like this movie had him doing that under the water. Is that another callback, or am I mixing?
I
two
think
movies?
there's a few. It's like, you know, most movies. If you've seen the previous ones, there's little rewards along the way.
Well, so they
Fan
establish him
service.
escaping the straitjacket by popping his shoulder. You know, they never mentioned that he can pop his shoulder out of his socket in the first one.
Right.
But they
I
establish
thought that was
it
a good
just
new
so he
thing
can
to add.
escape from the thing that they put him in at the end of this movie. They do the plant and the payoff.
Right.
Colin plant first and then pay off later, as opposed to pay off first and plant, as we've seen.
I guess.
But
I think that's better somehow.
but then that becomes a recurring thing that they do. They have to have him pop his shoulder out in every movie after that. So
Does he switch
Right.
Does he switch shoulders?
I
was hard to
can't
say for
remember.
me.
We can clock that
That's a
from
good
now on.
question.
It's his right shoulder that he's popping out. So we'll just keep an eye on that.
Yes, let's. So Christian, I forgot to ask you before. Usually in the beginning, we ask the guests like what their. Did I ask you this? What your like relationship is to these movies? How many times have you seen them? Did you see them? Okay, yeah. Go. Why don't you go ahead and talk about that?
No, I love the Lethal Weapon movies. Big Shane Black fan. As a kid, I was born in 1980, so this was right around that time where I was really getting into rated R movies. 1989, 9 years old. I didn't see this one in the theater, but I saw it like on Showtime or something, like a couple years after it came out. And, you know, I loved it. I remember I was really traumatized by some of the deaths, like the drowning death was pretty traumatic to me.
Yeah.
And but I've always loved the chemistry between Murtaugh and Riggs. And I don't know if you guys knew this. You might not. There's one movie outside of the Lethal Weapon franchise that kind of is an homage or a little Easter egg for this franchise. And there's an epic scene in the movie Maverick where Mel Gibson's in a bank, and he's like trying to get this money from this guy that owes him money. And while he's in the bank, this bandit comes in, and he's like, "Give me all your money!" And he's got a face mask on, and he pulls down his little. He looks at him close in the eyes, and there's like this pause, and you start hearing the Lethal Weapon. Ding, and he like goes up and he pulls down his thing, and they look at each other and they're like, "No," and then they just continue with what they were doing. It is so amazing.
And it's Danny Glover.
It's Danny Glover.
Oh wow!
And then he also has an I'm too old for this shit moment later.
Yeah, and as he's getting away from the bank, he's like,
I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah, Maverick.
So I highly recommend after you
movie,
watch all these, go watch Maverick, and you'll love that scene. It's really fun.
Maverick is unabashed at how goofy it's willing to get for like a laugh here and there. It's actually it's a really fun movie.
Yeah,
Maverick is a great movie.
But anyway, long story short, as Matt knows, a huge fan of the 80s action. That's like, for me, that's the pinnacle of action movies, 80s.
It's the pinnacle of
The
filmmaking.
pinnacle. Everything else
Commando,
is subpar.
filmmaking hit its epic peak. And
Apex. Yeah.
It's apex, and it's all been downhill from there.
So, like, what are the bad guys up to in this movie? I feel the whole time I was like,
I was hoping one of you guys would explain it to me. It's something about Cougarans and dollars and drug dealing, and it's something about like laundering drug dealing money by transferring cash to Cougarans.
And
Yeah,
using
if they
diplomatic immunity to stay safe from everything.
Right.
which is cool. If they didn't kill that guy from Aliens in the beginning, like I felt like they had to do that to make them like bad. They murdered someone before our eyes.
Right.
But if they didn't have that scene, I'd be like, why are they chasing these guys? Like, what is?
Well, they're
what
part
are
of a
they
huge
doing?
drug dealing operation, apparently.
Yeah, but they don't really. What I'm saying is they don't like show it enough, or they don't set up that these guys are bad. Other than that,
Yeah,
one scene.
and it feels like throughout the movie they have to keep feeding that idea, like, remember these guys are bad, and they feed it so much to the point where they're like, oh yeah, I'm the one that killed your wife.
Right.
Yeah.
Then when
And
they
then
finally
you're like,
add
oh,
that, then you're
shit.
like, oh, okay, that makes
Yeah.
it personal.
Yeah, once they start telling you the bad guys are bad, they immediately kill like 10 plus cops, and then
Right.
reveal that the whole death of the wife they're responsible for it the whole time. And yeah, they really showed themselves to be murderous. Yes.
Well,
At
yeah,
the end
I
there.
think you're right, Matt, because we don't see them doing anything except for like, it looks just like they're just money launderers.
Yeah, it
And-
looks like they own and operate a bank of some kind.
Right.
Bunch of rich white dudes.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to see them doing lots of murder. Me
Yeah.
and my friends used to say, when we were kids, we would always, me and my friend Dan, who you've met, Matt, I think, but we always used to say, like, diplomatic immunity. We must have watched this movie together as, like, very young kids, probably in middle school or whatever. Diplomatic immunity. That was what we would say anytime, like, you didn't want somebody to mess with you about something. No, diplomatic immunity.
Like you're playing tag, like on the
Yeah.
playground, and you get tagged, and you're like, nah, diplomatic immunity.
Gotta say it like a South African, though. Diplomatic immunity.
Side note, the haircuts in this movie are epic. Like it's like the bad guys could have been a Duran Duran cover band,
You know whose haircut really impresses me is the police captain. It's like it stays perfectly still, but it's also like very wavy and feathery, but
Lots of
also
body.
compacted.
You
It's
want to
got
know
an
what that is?
interesting body density.
It's
to it.
called
It's a body-
Consort hairspray for men. It was all the rage in the 80s.
Is that real?
Back when Harris was in his
Yep,
30s.
you blow dry it, your hair just the way you want it, and then you just hose down a nice shell of hairspray on the outside. Keeps kind of. It looks like you can touch it, but you can't. It looks like it might be able to move. It won't.
It was called
Bulletproof.
Consort, huh?
Consort.
Okay. Well, I guess I got to get some of that.
Yep. I
know,
don't
it
think
might
it's
be
made for
dangerous.
a healthy mane like yours.
No.
It would be funny if Colin had all his long hair there, and then the wind blows and it just doesn't move. It's it's stiff, just
Like-
stiff down his back.
Ideally,
Barbie
I could
doll.
make it as long as it is be horizontal rather than vertical. So I could be the tips of my hair could be like a good 10 inches to the right of where my eyeballs are on both sides.
I think we should hairspray your hair back so it looks like you're moving fast all the time, like you're
Oh
running at
yeah,
full
that'd
speed.
be good.
Just
I came as fast as I could. Clearly, you did.
I'm moving my apartment, and here's how long I've lived in the apartment I've lived in now. I had a bottle of hairspray, or like a thing of hairspray, from when I moved in, and my hair was long enough that it actually needed hairspraying. That hasn't been the case in a many years. And as I'm moving, I'm like, oh, I should keep this. It's like a full bottle of hairspray. And then I was like, I haven't used hairspray in like 6 years. Tossed it.
Wow.
I should have saved it for Colin.
Because I was born in '85. The moment I reached like you're gonna use hair products now maturity level, it was all about the gel. Everything was gel, and that was like you basically sculpted your hair into like a goo that became a hardened piece of rock, and then it would crumble into little pieces and get into your sweat and go directly into your eyes and make you feel pain. And that's what gel was all about.
This Matt might relate to this. Same. I had frosted tips, all that gel. But
Yes.
It was great because I'm from Utah, Park City. So I remember I'd get ready for school, I'd have all that gel in, I'd go outside and my hair would freeze solid.
Yeah,
And then by the time I got to school, it would be dry.
What I
You just
used to
look like
remember
Ace
is, like,
Ventura from the second one. He's got like devil horns. Like that.
Exactly.
What I used to remember is like trying to wait until the afternoon and then taking like one strand and like cracking it, like just to feel the little crack.
Yeah.
Like it's fall now, so I've been
It would like
every
flake.
every time I walk around right now, I'm trying to like look for leaves to step on to get that like crunching sensation. But that was similar. It was like, okay, just wait, just like put a bunch of gel in, wait until like 2 p.m. and just like take a strand of your hair and just crack it open.
Or if you did the whole, like, you just went for it and just messed it all up and
Oh,
it was just
yeah.
like flakes. Just
Yeah,
Yeah, just a snowstorm.
yeah, plastic snow. Again, we're
Look at us
way
reminiscing
far away
about
from Lethal
hair.
Weapon 2.
If you're just joining us for your 80s hair care, 90s hair care podcast.
This has been Consort, brought to you by Consort.
We should get a deal with them.
Yeah.
I just saw the dumbest moment in this movie I like this movie. It's got a lot of dumb moments in it. The dumbest moment is Riggs hanging off the side of the tow truck, and the guy goes through a turn, and Riggs, like, you can see Mel Gibson intentionally like throwing his gun onto the roadway.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's actually it might be the worst performance of Mel Gibson's career, pretending to accidentally lose his gun in that sequence, because it looks nothing like this could ever possibly result in him dropping a gun.
and the way
And then-
that henchman is killed at the end of that crash with the surfboard launching
Yep.
off the car. It's so
It's a cool death in theory, but you can clearly see that the surfboard does not touch him
Yeah.
when it goes through the windshield.
I love
Yeah,
what
I
the,
really
he's, like, all
wanted to see
bloody.
the head explode and get surfboard all over the place.
I
It
love
reminds
what
me
the-
of Twister when the ladder goes through the guy.
Also
that was
awesome.
cooler.
Yeah. I love what the police captain says. He's like, I got a corpse down there in the morgue with a surfboard where his face is supposed to be.
That's such great like cliche 90s action movie dialogue. Like I feel like you could drop
Like
that into,
trivializing a man's death.
yeah,
Totally.
Yeah, I feel like you could drop that into almost any movie and make it instantly a little more hilarious.
I like that the captain is a bigger character in this one. I've already talked about his hair. I've already talked about one of his great lines. I look forward to seeing him in the next one, if he is.
He's kind of a hard ass for his. See, in the first one, it was like I felt like Murtaugh was one of his like top cops, and then Riggs comes along and he's like, you're gonna saddle Murtaugh with this loose cannon because only Murtaugh could handle him maybe, and then in this one it's like they're both screw ups because all they do is explode everything.
Yeah, I mean, they should have got fired after the first movie, but, that's neither here nor there.
They should probably be in jail after this movie.
Oh yeah,
shot a
they're
bunch of
like
people.
police
Definitely
protocol. Forget it. It's personal. Let's just
Yeah,
blow
they just
them
went and
away.
murdered a bunch of people that they weren't allowed to arrest. Like, I don't understand. Like, it's never really addressed, I don't think, in the series. But, like, they basically they leave their badges at home and they go murder these guys that they're not actually allowed to even deal with.
That actually reminds me of something. Have you guys have all played GTA 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have
Yeah.
you played through the campaign of it at all?
Yeah.
I didn't beat it. I
I
played a little through it.
swear that game stole the whole House on Stilts mission. Because
right.
you like have to pull a house down off a stilt.
Oh, I do remember that actually.
I'm pretty sure
totally.
they stole it from this movie.
Totally.
I don't believe with the truck he has and the winch he has, he would actually be capable of doing that. The believability was not there for me in this movie. I love the concept, but the moment they showed the house shaking that much, I was like, you can't do that with like a fucking regular Silverado.
I choose to believe.
Where's Harris's Honda Civic when you need it?
Yeah, exactly. My indestructible Honda Accord, but yes. So,
Honda Accord. Sorry.
Hey, but if it was Murtaugh's station wagon, you'd believe it. No,
right?
I
wouldn't
they
like
should have
that
done
car
that.
to do anything. I'm pretty sure that thing would be running without wheels.
The funny thing was, he's like, "This was a new car," and Riggs is like, "It still is."
Yeah. Yeah, this movie is far less believable, but it's part of that whole, like you said, it's a little goofier, it's a little funnier. They up the comedy in it. It's a lot of this is that it's, I'm sure you guys all know the story, but Shane Black was originally, he was like, after the first one got made, which was his second script that he ever wrote and his first one that he ever sold, and became this huge action movie, sort of game changer for the industry. And they were so excited to give him a bunch of money to come back and write a second one. And he came back and worked really hard on it and thought he did a great job and still thinks, I think, it's one of the better things he ever wrote. And they were like, this is way too dark. He had, Riggs died at the end. A bunch of,
it's going to be a no for me.
Well, then,
it's a hard no,
Riggs die
thanks.
at the end? Yeah.
Yeah. Riggs died at the end. It was a bunch of terrible shit happened. Like, there was all sorts of... It was, more violent and bloody and dark than the first one was. And they were like, we're going to go another way. And he's talked a lot about how he felt like such a failure because he disappointed everybody. But they brought in Jeffrey Boehm, who had actually done an uncredited comedy punch-up on the first movie. And he wrote The Dead Zone and The Last Crusade and Inner Space and Lost Boys. So he's got a pretty good track record of just doing fun, sort of populist fare. And that's basically, they took a lot of the, from what it sounds like, they took a lot of the initial ideas that Shane Black had in his Lethal Weapon 2 script and just made them a little more fun and goofy and added some comedy. And it's not taking itself nearly as seriously. Despite the fact that there's a lot of death in this.
What was that script called? It had a different name. Do you remember?
Yeah, it was like
Playing for Keeps or something like that.
I keep thinking Vanity Fair, and that's not it. But it was like a 2-syllable, 1-syllable thing, and it was one of them ended in a Y. It was something like that.
Have you guys heard this? I can't remember where I read this or if this is a rumor, but I swear I read somewhere that Die Hard with a Vengeance was originally written as a Lethal Weapon sequel.
It definitely wasn't written as a Die Hard sequel.
And then they tweaked it into the Die Hard movie. Because if you
heard
think
it
about
was
it, it makes sense because it's like there's two buddies and
right. I heard it was written just as an original.
I think it was
called
I think it was
Simon
an
Says.
action spec.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you're right. It could have been a Lethal Weapon movie if they didn't want to go the Die Hard.
It sold as a spec, and they were just like, "Hey, we're just going to turn this into a Die Hard." By the way, Colin, I'm looking it up, and the original title was Vanity Fair because Shane Black actually was writing it as an adaptation of the William Makepeace Thackeray novel as a sequel to this. So it's really you would never expect it.
Wait, was that was that a joke? It was so hard to get. It was too complicated. I'm sure that was funny, but I don't know what you said.
Well, you'd have to know that Vanity Fair was a book. But
the weirdest part of that story to me was the part where it said Shane Black was so disappointed that he got rejected that he offered to give them their money back until his agent came in and was like, "No way,
no, what are you fucking crazy?"
Yeah, no, you don't ever give money back. This because especially the agent, because the agent's like, no, that's my money you're giving back. You're not allowed to do that.
Yeah,
I can only imagine that agent just losing his shit totally. Just, are you kidding me? You offered to give them the money back? You don't ever talk to them again without me. Yeah.
Please forgive my insane, stupid client. He wrote a bad script, but he still gets paid for it. He's such a dumb, untalented man, but you still owe him the money.
Yeah. He wrote a really bad, really valuable script.
Yeah.
Are you guys? I'm a big spoof movie fan, like Naked Gun, Die Hard, or Naked Gun, Hot Shots. Did you guys ever see the National Lampoon spoof, Loaded Weapon?
I feel like we've all seen it, but I haven't seen it in so long.
It's so hilarious. My favorite, the scene that always stands out in my mind in this movie, that scene where Riggs is in the RV with his girl, and the South Africans come and shoot it all up, right? In Loaded Weapon, the exact same scene.
It's
happens.
like a mansion, right?
Well, no. It's inside. It's like a mansion, but
Yeah.
in this scene, the helicopters come up. They unload on this trailer, and it basically collapses. And then this white flag is like waving out, and Bruce Willis in a wife beater comes out, and he's like looking very Die Hard. They're like, "This is the wrong address. That's the next beach down." So funny, you guys. You got to watch it. With Samuel L. Jackson and
Estevez.
Emilio Estevez. It's very funny.
Gordon Bombay.
Emilio, Gordon Bombay
It's all
is
coming
back.
back to the Mighty Ducks.
Guys, I'm feeling some Patreon movies in this episode. We're
I
dropping
can't
some
believe
movies.
Harris hasn't seen Mighty Ducks at all. It's
I mean, I'm
it's a
familiar
movie.
with the concept. I know of the Mighty Ducks.
Harris, are you aware that ducks fly together?
I've heard that. In a V formation? Is that the
Yeah, flying V. Yeah, you got it. Sorry, Matt. What were you gonna say?
I was just telling Christian, I don't know if you're aware, but we have a Patreon for $1 a month where super fans can listen to us talk about non-franchise movies, because this show focuses just on movie franchises. So sometimes we discuss gems like the ones we're talking. Well, Mighty Ducks is a franchise, so that doesn't count. But some of these other ones we're mentioning. So who knows? Maybe we'll cover some of them on our bonus show. Tune in, why don't you?
shameless plug?
What do we think of the girl in this movie? They introduced a love interest, and they had a classic late 80s, early 90s hot sex scene.
Yeah, and she came in pretty late, too. It was like 40
Yeah,
minutes
she
into the
did.
movie or something.
There are so many things wrong with that entire relationship.
Yeah, it was weird because they were really into each other, but like the second he found out they killed his wife, he's like, he totally forgot about her. He's like, they killed my wife. Ah!
Yeah. But then at
Yeah,
the
and
end,
then when
he was
he's having
actually, he
his
was throwing her
psychic
in
break.
there when he was like the list of things that he wanted revenge for. He was like, oh yeah, and there's also her, Rika.
Yeah.
You know, mostly my wife and all the cops, but also they killed my new
Rena,
girlfriend.
Rika, one of those.
Well, when he's having his like psychotic break or whatever, I feel like he's not differentiating anymore, and I thought that's what they were trying to say.
Yeah,
but
that wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, but I do like it better that he just forgot about her and then suddenly remembers. Oh yeah, and they killed that other chick.
Like
that I
you
had
just
sex
That
saw
with
other,
Red.
what's
so
her name?
many
What's her name? The
times.
blonde. Yes, I was getting into her. I could have seen that working for, and she's like totally into. I mean, first of all, the whole supermarket scene.
I
Is,
hate the supermarket scene.
Oh my God.
I hate it.
Let's get into
somebody
this.
explain
The
what
worst.
happens there, and if you can, explain why it's not totally awful.
Who's gonna do that? Who's gonna explain why it's not totally?
Well, let's
awful?
explain what happens then.
Colin, I feel like you need to take this.
Okay. He likes this girl. There's a mutual attraction. The girl is the secretary for the bad guys, but she doesn't know how bad they are. And he goes to the supermarket where she is at because he figured out she was there. Is that correct?
He
followed
stalked
her.
her. He followed
Tailed
her.
he
her. I
followed
think he
her.
even
Got it.
says, "I tailed you."
I tailed
From
you.
work.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
says it. He says that he is talking to her face. And then in the supermarket, he says that she should have dinner with him. And
Well,
she
first
says
he makes
no.
fun of what she's buying. He says that she's eating a bunch of rabbit food and she must only eat salads.
Oh yeah,
So he makes
which
fun of her
is-
grocery choices.
makes it way worse because it's like,
Yeah.
what the hell? You're trying to show me
Yeah,
that
he's
you're
making fun of her.
aggressive about the way you eat food. Okay, you're being really aggressive right now.
Yeah.
Okay, we understand.
Just don't eat tuna.
Yeah, right.
yeah,
Right.
right.
There's a lot of messages in this
Yeah.
movie.
Um,
End apartheid. Stop eating dolphin meat. Come on.
Yeah,
Don't
so-
tell me what to do, Lethal Weapon 2. I'll end apartheid when I feel like it.
The message of the grocery store scene is like, you cannot possibly be aggressive enough when publicly making a woman go to eat dinner at your house, I guess.
Forcing her to.
Forcing
Oh,
her
how
to.
times have changed.
Discomfort is just as good as actual mutual interest, you know? He basically embarrasses her, tells her she has to come to his house, and then when she refuses, he physically grabs her little hand cart and until
spills her groceries everywhere.
Spills her groceries everywhere, causes a scene, and then, like, not to mention, fucked up the whole vegetable section for the poor grocer who comes out to be like, what the hell's going on here? Why are people
the grocery guy in the
yelling
background
and knocking food on the floor?
God.
And then he's like, oh shit, we better get out of here. And then drags her off.
And they show the grocery guy in the background. He's just like,
come on, man.
They didn't even pay that actor enough to like be that character. I feel. And
I think they actually hired a real grocer and was like, oh, by the way, you have to clean this up after the scene. And action. Use this. Oh, and then when they get back to his place, he's promised her dinner and drinks, and he's got one beer that they split and no dinner. He's got chili.
A can of chili, Hormel.
Yeah.
So like
I like it with crushed up Oreos, he says.
Yeah.
Yes, which I mean that's probably the most charming thing about all of this.
Yeah.
And she's into
Crushed
it.
up Oreos in your chili.
She's into it. She bones him. She's
I
like,
don't-
this is what I was waiting
and
for.
how?
I don't feel the chemistry in the grocery store scene though. The other scenes, yeah, I'm getting it a little bit, but in the grocery store scene, I'm just like I'm baffled. I'm like, how the hell is harassing this woman and making a scene in the grocery store a subtle flirt in the minds of everyone who's making this scene? Like, what the hell are they thinking? Like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
I read a thing on IMDb a while back about that sex scene, and apparently she felt super guilty on set because she was Catholic and she knew that he was Catholic, and they were just getting down and dirty.
Oh,
It
wow.
looked like they really were, too. There were some angles there. I was like, damn. We've
But-
reached the 7th inning stretch, right? Is that what he says?
Well, did you hear how he responded to the 7th inning stretch comment, or how she responded to the 7th inning stretch comment?
Yeah, she was like, we're only in the fourth
Yeah.
inning, which I
It's
thought
like
that was
more
kind of
like the 4th inning.
I thought that was kind of a knock on him. It was like, yeah? Really? No, 7 minutes doesn't mean the 7th inning.
He's like, I came 7 times.
Yeah, I thought that was like how many. I thought it was a metaphor for how many insertions, maybe. I'm
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry
what I
for
thought.
our sensitive listeners.
He's such a sharp shooter. How did he not get her pregnant like the first try, dude?
It was, yeah.
All right,
It was exactly 7 pumps.
Oh, nasty.
Oh, man.
But they were very careful to only show her right breast and not her left breast.
Maybe she was a wrestler and got it ripped off in a wrestling.
Yeah, maybe.
Full circle.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of stuff on her. Like, I don't think she's done a ton of stuff.
She looks like other actresses from this time to me.
She's very pretty. Absolute beginners.
She's got a little bit of like a poor man's Michelle Pfeiffer going on.
Yeah, a little bit. I think the most notable thing for her is that she's been married to 4 different musicians. Dan Donovan from Big Audio Dynamite, Jim Kerr, who I don't know, Liam Gallagher, and Jeremy Healy, whoever the hell he is.
Wait, the Gallagher brothers are Oasis, aren't they?
I think
Yes.
so, yeah.
Oh yeah. She got Wonderwalled? Oh. Matt, that's gross.
Hopefully she used a Ramses condom. I feel like the toilet scene is like the hallmark of this movie.
It's one of my favorite
like-
scenes in the whole
Oh, yeah.
franchise.
Honestly, it was the only thing I clearly remembered about this movie. There were other things that I was like, oh yeah, this rings a bell. I think I've seen some of this stuff. But the toilet scene, I was like, this is iconic Lethal Weapon to me. Like the toilet scene is Lethal Weapon movies to me. It's peak Lethal Weapon.
I think one of the big reasons I'm more of a Die Hard guy growing up. I was into Die Hard, and I didn't really get into these movies too much. One of the big reasons is that I had a buddy of mine in high school, and we got into an argument once about which series is better. And I remember one of his like points, or one of his like reasons why Lethal Weapon is better. He's like, the toilet scene in Lethal Weapon 2. I mean, hands down. And I was like, what?
And you dismissed his argument despite the fact that you never saw the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's bullshit. That scene wasn't better. I've never even seen it. That's how bad it was.
That's how bad it was.
Yeah, I do think it's peak Lethal Weapon. I don't think it makes it better than Die Hard. So, I don't know.
I feel like if I was taking a crap and I looked at the toilet paper and it said, like, boom, you're dead, I'd be like, poop joke. And then I'd get up and die.
Yeah.
You know, I think correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you guys noticed this. Do you know that sequence where that hit guy tries to sneak in on Leo Getz when they first meet him and they fall out the window into the pool?
Yep.
I swear, and I could be wrong because I feel like every building kind of looks the same in LA, but when he gets out of that pool, I think you can see Nakatomi Tower in the background.
You can. Yeah, it's right there.
So maybe these are all part of the same universe.
They're the same universe, yeah.
Yeah.
I want to see the Die Hard Lethal Weapon crossover.
Oh,
Quick,
that'd be
while
so
everyone's
great.
still alive.
They should have done that. That's
Yeah.
brilliant.
100%.
Especially Joel Silver. Come on, Joel Silver. That's a fuck up on you, buddy.
Yeah. That should be a layup.
I know this is going to sound crazy, but I feel that the Die Hard universe is slightly more grounded than the Lethal Weapon universe.
Oh, yeah. I think
Totally.
so.
Let's acknowledge that we're talking about two universes that are batshit insane, and then yes, slightly
Yeah, he
more
crashes
grounded,
a car into a helicopter. Yeah, come on.
Well, yeah, maybe the earlier
Well,
Die
yeah.
Hard movies.
I'm talking the first 3 Die Hard movies, because after that it just goes off the rails, and you
Yeah,
don't know
the
what
other two
fuck's
don't
happening.
exist, basically.
Which is basically Lethal Weapon was just beating them to the punch with we'll see in Lethal Weapon 3 and 4, we'll see even more. Like, every movie, it's just got to be a little more absurd. But yeah, that whole scene with the window is like, he's trying to foil this assassination attempt, so he rams the food cart into the assassin waiter and the guy he's trying to protect, and smashes them both through a plate glass window on like the 20th floor of a building. And they both go flying out. I mean, besides the fact that those windows don't smash
All
like
three
that.
of them go flying out.
Yeah, all 3 of them go flying out of this skyscraper and land in a pool, and they're all totally okay. And they don't land on
Murtaugh
anybody.
definitely sees that is going to happen. He's like, not the window, Riggs. Like,
Yeah.
like, you do something.
Well, my favorite part is after they hit the water and, Riggs beats the crap out of Pesci's head thinking he's the other guy. Then they get out, the bad guy gets away. My favorite part is Murtaugh comes down totally winded, and he's like, what happened? And Riggs is like, where were you? He's like, I was 20 floors up, dude.
Why didn't you jump after us?
Yeah, why do you jump after?
Did you guys notice a lot of, because I feel like that line, like, not the window, Riggs, was, it might have, I don't know if he was on camera for that, but I feel like there were a lot of ADR lines they clearly threw in over, like, the back of somebody's head in the midst of action. And it was always like a quip, but it was never a quip that was clever. Sometimes it was explaining something that you could obviously clearly see and it was not necessary. But like sometimes it was like supposed to be a joke, but I think they were just afraid of like letting any action play out without some kind of, frenetic, funny gags and quips and stuff.
Right. And the most obvious ADR is when they're driving to the dock. It's like this it's like this 3-minute freeway shot of Danny Glover's voice crystal clear and radio sexy.
Yeah.
You're like, clearly they cut like 5 scenes out right here or something.
I thought Danny Glover's Murtaugh's reaction to them going out the window was funny too, because he was like, it wasn't like, oh my god, I just watched my friend and partner plummet to his death. It was like, damn, why is he always doing these crazy ass hijinks? It's like, oh man, now I gotta run down the stairs. Not like, oh fuck, I'm gonna get fired.
Yeah. There's no way he's for sure dead.
Too. Did you guys notice in the opening chase scene that there was a cop who like joins the chase at some point? Like he you see him hit his siren and like pull his car out to join the chase, and immediately crash into something and explodes, and then he's never mentioned again. Like his whole fucking car explodes into a ball of fire, and there's no like funeral where they're all wearing the gloves and they're dressed blues or anything. It's like just like that idiot. He drove.
They're
in
all
that
joking
taco
around with
truck and
straitjackets the
exploded.
next day.
Yeah, you could make like 6 other movies of just the policemen's funerals from this
Yeah.
movie.
That the whole sequel should have just been funerals.
I can't remember exactly what happened, but that whole scene where they come back to the police station and it sets up the whole condom joke part, that whole scene was very like out of nowhere because it was like a really heavy and emotional something scene right before. And like somebody died. I can't remember exactly what happened, but then they all come back and then they're all joking about condoms and they're like, shouldn't they kind of be distraught right now?
Yeah.
No.
Or like bad guys just get away and they're like, whatever, we'll
Yeah.
get them next time.
The condom tree, they put a lot of work into that.
They bought a
lot of
rubber
jizz.
plant. They bought
That's
a potted
impressive.
rubber plant
Yeah.
Yeah.
and blew up. I don't know, 30 condoms.
50 easily.
Probably, yeah, probably.
These condoms are hilarious, guys, but why did you have to come in every one of them?
How long did this take?
You just see one guy, his like hair's all messed up. He's like,
Like your dedication makes it.
It cuts to
funny.
Leo Getz, and he's like wiped out on the chair, like no energy.
Okay.
Okay. One more, and then I'm done.
The condom commercial scene where the whole family is like freaking out. The best is this construction guy's like, I thought she was great.
yeah.
Like, get
I'm gonna
outta
go buy
here,
some
man.
condoms
Great.
right
She makes
now.
me want to go out and buy
I'm gonna
rubbers
go
right
buy
now.
some rubbers right now. Yeah.
Best
My
line
favorite part
in,
about
I think, any of the movies.
My favorite part about that line is that it's pretty clear he doesn't really need rubbers or want rubbers. It's just the commercial really just convinced him that he's got to buy them. Like, he really bought it, you know?
Yeah, he thinks that rubbers will lead to sex rather than, the normal thing where the
Right.
sex leads to the purchasing of rubbers.
And then Riggs makes some pun about rubbers too. Do you guys remember
Yeah.
what it
in
was?
One ear, out the rubber.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In one
that
ear,
one's-
out
I
the
was
rubber.
like,
They're all such bad, like, dad jokey type of things.
oh, the
too.
one at the end of the movie is my favorite one.
There's another
Captain
one
Ear.
where Danny Glover kills two guys with a nail gun. He's like, nailed them both.
Oh, that's good. That was good.
Oh,
I knew when they set up that nail gun what was going to happen.
He waits to kill the second guy so he can say he
Yeah.
nailed them both.
Exactly. Also,
I
I love how
literally
his
didn't
house is
hear him say it.
perpetually under construction through both of these movies.
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah, I
Oh,
literally
man.
didn't hear him say the nail line because I was saying to myself, nailed it, like, out loud.
What haven't we covered? There's a
I
lot of
don't
cool
understand why the
deaths.
villain is never sharpening skates or putting hockey sticks on a shelf. I just don't get it.
I think we
Okay.
covered Mighty Ducks references, Colin.
I know. Here's a scene I don't get. He goes into his house and just shoots the fish tank and then runs away. And all those guys could have easily killed him. They've been talking a lot about how they have diplomatic immunity and could murder him if they wanted to. And he just
Yeah.
walks in there in front of all of them, starts waving a gun around, and then shoots the fish tank and then runs back out. And there was no real point to the scene whatsoever, except he does talk to the woman afterwards. So
he found that note that had the name of the ship on it. He was there
right.
to snoop.
That's the only
But
significant
it's like
thing.
Okay.
it's such a vague, like, I'm gonna go in there and just poke around and hope that I stumble upon something that is helpful as a clue. And they go through all this elaborate ruse with Danny Glover or with Murtaugh acting like
That
he's
was a
gonna
fun
move
scene.
to South Africa. That was a fun scene. And honestly, the fish tank scene's kind of a fun scene too, but it's like preposterous.
yeah,
Also.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think honestly, both Lethal Weapon 1 and Lethal Weapon 2, the problems really, really show themselves in the third act. I don't know if you guys are on the same page with that, but yeah. As soon
I
as
like
they-
a good. Sorry, I was gonna say I like a good like villain death. Like like I like when I feel like this was a period of time when like villain deaths were really like clever
Mhm.
and
Elaborate, yeah.
not elaborate. Yeah, that's the word. Not just like getting shot. But yeah, getting like a what
shipping
do you call
container.
it? A shipping container dropped on you. That's great.
Yeah.
And they really show his body like crumple.
Yeah. That was
Yeah.
cool, but I don't understand why they had to have a fist fight before that. They're clearly in a gunfight, and then all of a sudden, because it's Lethal Weapon, we have to see Riggs fist fight a guy.
Well, he threw a
And-
dagger through his knee to
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
that
I think
fight.
I think they
nasty.
did that to make it a little more believable because that other guy looked like a geezer, man. Like it looked like
Yeah.
Riggs would have owned him in a heartbeat. But I don't-
Yeah. That guy sucks. I would have rather seen him fist fight fucking Hans from the skate shop.
That guy is from something too. I recognize him.
Well, I think all these South Africans were played by British actors too, which is odd. But yeah, I don't know what else that guy's in that we would have seen.
He's in Daredevil.
I said, Matt, I don't know what else.
Which Daredevil?
we would
The
have
Ben Affleck or
seen.
the Netflix?
Yeah, the Ben Affleck.
The Ben Affleck one.
Oh, that movie.
He was in Brazil, but I don't remember him from that.
I love Brazil. Time Bandits. He's in. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Nothing's jumping out at me. Jabberwocky. He's in a lot of Terry Gilliam joints.
I thought they did a pretty good South African accent though, which is kind of a hard one to nail, because it kind of sounds a little Australian-ish. Like that's what people always mistake South Africans for Australians or New Zealanders.
It's like British with a Dutch accent, kind of.
Exactly.
Well, that's where it comes from, basically. But it's just got a little bit of a twist at the end. It's a weird little, like when you say something
Harris
like,
is going leprechaun
you're
again.
black.
He's going leprechaun again.
It is
the
a
funny
little
thing is, if this
leprechaun-y.
movie came out like 5 years ago, that group Die Antwood would have totally been in here somehow.
Oh, yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. Like the Chappie movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oi, get back here, Mel Gibson.
Yeah. Lethal Weapon 2 crossed with Chappie. Now that's a movie we need to see.
Yeah, at which sequel do they add the robots?
Well, maybe they'll do that for the next one.
Oh, I'm watching the supermarket scene right now. It's horrible.
Yeah, it's so bad. Look at this grocery store guy. Come on. Why do you do that to that man? In his green apron. He has to wear that green apron for you, to serve you in your fucking store, and you just dump shit all over the place.
Someone does need to ask Neil Blomkamp though if this was like a movie he hated growing up. I always wonder what like a South African would think of this movie, because it kind of makes them all out to be like pompous, rich, racist.
Well, not her. She's one of the cool South Africans.
I would love to hear Trevor Noah's impressions of this movie.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that'd be real interesting.
I mean, as I've worked, because I edited Ben Stillerman's feature doc about his dad, who's a South African shopkeeper. I've seen a lot of white South Africans. Most of them tend to be pretty like straightforward about it. Like not a lot of them opposed apartheid when it was part of the country, but they certainly have the guilt and remorse there. So they tend to be like a little less. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of just acknowledged that, yeah, this is like a shitty thing about a really shitty thing that my country did, and we probably deserve to be the bad guys in this movie.
I thought the scene when they come in with ski masks into Murtaugh's house and they call him Kaffir like a bunch of times. Mm-hmm. I thought they were gonna piece that together from the, like I thought that was really dumb that they used that slang word like so many times. It like gives away who they are.
It
where
was
they're
clearly
from.
set up.
Yeah,
because then you remember he said when he was telling Riggs, he was like, they called me some word, like I'm assuming it's bad.
Yeah.
Oh, did it? Was there a scene like that? I was like
Yeah.
looking for that.
Yeah, he couldn't even remember what word it was. Well, I think that was intentional though. I think they were doing that and saying that because it doesn't really do good anybody any good to send someone a message if they don't know who the warning is. Like lay off us. I promise I will stop this investigation as soon as I solve the mystery of who the fuck you are.
yeah.
So that happens to me a lot. Somebody comes and they're like, lay off me. And I'm like, who the fuck are you? And they just leave.
Oh, here's the diving board scene.
So, but where is the bomb? There's no thing under the diving board. The explosion comes from underneath the water. She does a lot of flips, but I don't see.
It doesn't look like she would die from that.
No, it doesn't.
Just
It
looks
looks like it might be fun.
I feel like if this were Loaded Weapon 1, they would just cut to 3 guys who like hold up a number,
Yeah.
That whole sequence inspired George Lucas on the Order 66 sequence.
To kill everyone.
I don't know. What I don't totally get is that like the first guy is just hanging upside down in his exercise equipment, and they just walk into his apartment and shoot him. And then for everyone else, they're like planting bombs and stuff like this. And that is a pretty cool stunt when she flies off the diving board. But at the same time, what if her husband went on the diving board instead of her? What if somebody else sat on Murtaugh's toilet? Like these aren't very effective. What if the fucking carpenter who likes rubbers sat on the toilet and was like taking an upstairs dump, and he blew up instead?
And why go through all the trouble of using like bombs if you could break into people's like cops'
If you're
homes
just gonna
that
show up
easily?
and shoot them, if you're just gonna show up and shoot one guy in the face, the best way to kill these guys is just shoot them all in the face.
Why write boom on the toilet paper when you wouldn't even know a bomb was there?
Exactly.
Also-
exactly. Getting too cute. They got a little too cute.
Also, it rains at some point in this movie, and we know that it only rains in LA during, winter time, basically. So what if she just didn't use the pool for another like 4 months?
Yeah.
Like, still waiting on that pool assassination. Yep, no, any day now. I'm pretty sure weather's warming up. I'm pretty sure she'll be dead soon.
I just realized that when the house and then the whole house blows up and killing like 4 cops,
Right?
Including what's his name from Breaking Bad.
Why not just blow up the police station and Grandel Bush, who I guess is not going to be in any of the sequels.
Yeah, I didn't realize that Grandel Bush dies until right now.
Terrible.
That's really upsetting.
Yeah, that was tragic. I was upset when I saw that.
And they managed to do a lot of bomb exploding things, but then for rigs they sent a team of attack choppers, machine guns. It's like that's a sign of respect right there. They're like, this guy is dangerous. We're just gonna blow everyone else up. We don't trust bombs for this dude. We're sending not one but multiple helicopters and machine gunners.
They could put a bomb in someone's backyard, but they couldn't put it in a fucking trailer on the beach.
They have helicopters. They could have dropped a bomb on a trailer.
Right.
They could just put it underneath it or something. Like, no one would ever know.
There's literally a spot underneath to put a bomb where the dog lives.
Just tie it to his dog or something. Yeah.
And also, the bomb would probably be most effective against the least stable structure, right? So,
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. He didn't have a diving board.
That was That was the one thing that saved him. Lack of a diving board. This is why I don't have a diving board.
Makes sense to me.
4 heavily armed dudes and 2 helicopters can't take out one guy with 9 bullets in his clip.
Yep.
He takes a whole helicopter out with 1 shot.
I'm pretty sure I've put my arm through an RV wall, like by accident. You know, when you like push the door open, like bullets wouldn't kill him.
Yeah, I used to live in an Airstream for a little while, and yeah, if I'd have gotten bombed, then I definitely would have died.
I mean, those have metal on the outside, or is it like aluminum or something?
Yeah, it's like a big aluminum shell, basically.
Yeah,
It's basically like living in a soda can.
A little bit.
delicious.
Yeah, I felt delicious.
So yeah, Leo Getz, he comes back. I forgot that he was introduced in this movie. I always thought he was a Lethal Weapon 3 edition.
I thought that too.
And I think he comes back as a blonde in Lethal Weapon 3.
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
It feels like because he feels like a jumping the shark move a little bit. You know, it feels like this is when it gets too goofy when we introduce Joe Pesci basically as a comic relief / annoying character.
He's the Jar Jar of this franchise.
Yeah. This part with the boat, when Murtaugh's like, he remembers like the name of the boat, and he's like, boat, that's it. And then he goes home like through his home videos and finds like, fast forwards through like random shit only to like find the name. Like, if you remembered that specific thing, that's the name of the boat, then like, why did you need to watch the videotapes?
If you
like,
remembered
for confirmation?
that it was something that's on the videos that you took on your boat at a marina, then that should be enough clues for you to figure out the rest of the.
Yeah, just go to the fucking like docks and
Also,
like, look for big
at
boats.
that moment, the witness that he's supposed to be protecting is with him, and he could easily have him. He could be like, come in and watch these home movies with me for 20 minutes. But he tells him to sit.
Why
in
do
the
you have to
car.
wait outside?
Yeah, I didn't think about that. He makes him wait in the car.
He's like, I told you to wait in the car.
Yeah.
while he goes through his old VHSs.
Yeah, I'm only gonna be a few hours
Yeah,
going through all
I'm
these
just gonna
tapes.
be fast forwarding through
He probably
multiple
dusted off that
VHS
old
tapes.
VHS from part 1 before he watched the other ones.
Oh, I was thinking that. Like, he
Yeah.
puts that one in by accident. He's like, yeah, I'll watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's
It's like mixed in with his home videos by accident. Whoops.
He's like, whoops, girl's in the shower. Well, I gotta finish it now.
Rianne, is this yours? It's not mine.
Oh, jeez. Oh, and then when Joe Pesci, the condom commercial comes on in their room,
Yeah,
he's
and
like,
he's
"Oh, I
stands
want
in
to watch
front of
this
the
one. The
TV.
girl in it's so hot." Danny Glover, I think, is my favorite part of these movies. Just the way he reacts to everyone is just like he's just nailing it.
They're both playing 10 years older than they actually are in the movie, too. I think at the time, Glover was only 40 and he was playing 50. And
Yep.
vice same with Mel Gibson. He was 30 playing 40. But
Yeah, and I didn't notice the how much they grade Danny Glover's. They don't do a great job of graying his hair in this movie. In the first one, I didn't notice it as much, but in this one, I think they're just spraying stuff. Like, I think they're literally just like powdering it up or putting spray on it or something like that because it doesn't look great.
yeah, I'm telling you, HD and Blu-ray change everything, man. All those tricks don't work anymore, man.
Yeah.
I found myself oddly moved by the the toilet scene just before they jump into the tub. Like they
Was it a
have that,
bowel movement?
yes, not
Were
a
your
bowel,
bowels
not a-
moved?
my bowels and my emotions, which are also in my bowels. But
Did you guys
no,
set that up beforehand? That felt really rehearsed, to be honest.
Nah, dude, that's straight off the dome, son.
No, Colin, nobody's trying to horn in on your awkwardly set up puns that take forever to set up and aren't worth it. We're just doing them organically, as puns were intended. But no, I just felt like that was like obviously a very comedic scene and everything. And I felt like the actors really sold that moment just before they did it of like, hey, this might be our last moments on Earth. And there's like this unspoken thank you between them. And I think it was mostly, I mean, Mel Gibson was fine. I think it was mostly Danny Glover,
It was an unspoken "I love you."
you know, sort of acting that I thought was really effective.
And then, as soon as the bomb goes off, they're in the tub. He's like, "Get off me, man! I don't want anyone seeing us like this."
Yeah, exactly.
Which might have been an ADR to be like, hey, wait a minute, we haven't had a homophobic joke in 15 minutes. And that's a rule of this franchise that you've got to say something about, you got to be terrified of somebody mistaking us for gay at all times.
The shot of dropping the toilet on the car hood really worked, though. That was a nice gag.
Yes. Yeah. That sold it all.
It's funny because it's a toilet.
And because of the car. Because the car
was
takes
like,
abuse.
Everything hit the car for the first half of the
See,
movie.
the people will laugh because it's a toilet on a car, and it doesn't belong there.
Because normally you never see toilets on cars. If I got to explain this humor for you, I don't know what we're going to do about the rest of this script.
That's Joel Silver, quoted directly.
Trying so hard to explain it, you end up looking a little flushed. What happened?
Come
Where'd
on,
you
nothing,
guys?
Don't cut that.
Don't.
Oh, no, we never do. Colin's made to
Sadly,
look
we
just as
never
foolish
do.
as he is for all of his bad puns. Like, speaking of the car and how much damage it takes, there's that moment when Leo opens the door and it gets clipped and knocked off by a passing car in traffic. It's like, at that point, it's like, it's clear that you're just trying to destroy this car in the most improbable ways, because that's really doesn't happen frequently, and it's not part of an action sequence or anything. It's literally just parking. It's parking a car, you know, like this isn't a moment of excitement, and they splice some comedy in there.
Does the wife's station wagon thing come back in the next movie? Because I know it was really stupid, but I was kind of digging it. I love station wagons. That's my thing, you know?
I can't remember.
I don't remember either. I feel like the house construction is one that they might have beat to death a little more. Their house burns down in the fourth one. Spoiler alert.
I feel like this house is under construction in 3 also.
Yeah,
I remember construction, or there's a construction site or something.
Which kind of takes a lot of the what I thought was interesting and inspired about it, as somebody who grew up in houses where there was always like a wall being knocked down or being built or something like that. I thought it was cool that they had the house under construction and the kitchen was all bare bones in the first one, and they just never explained it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I get it. That's what being middle class is. You remodel all the time here and there, but nothing's ever finished in a timely fashion. And I thought it said a lot about the family. And then they turn it into a running gag, because anything that they have that they can turn into a gag, it's like that sensibility of like, how can we turn this into some kind of joke? Oh, like, how can we be less creative and less thoughtful about these characters that we're doing and just turn everything into sort of a broad spoof, which it sounds like when I say it like that, it's a criticism. I kind of like the franchise more as it does that, but it is kind of just laziness that inspires those kind of decisions.
And then they gave us nailed them both.
right
out of the
redeemed
construction
themselves.
thing.
Yeah. To me, I got this sense about this movie is like in the first one, they took some time to explain some things that you kind of already understood everything about going in. Like a lot with the relationship between the two of them. The first one takes a little bit of time to set it up and explain it. And this one, they're like, you know what? I think the people who saw the first one already got it before they even came into the theater. He's old. He's crazy. Let's just fucking go from there. Like, don't explain anything. Make it funny. You know?
Yeah, that's sort of the benefit of a movie like this. You know, a good sequel is like, it's already set up who the characters are, so you can just get right to it. That's why a lot of sequels, like superhero stuff, is like they usually focus on the villain because they're the new element that you need to like learn about. This movie, again, like the villains are kind of like forgettable for me. That, you know, they still, this series still hasn't created like a memorable villain, I think.
I think this is different from the other franchises we've done because this one was much more built to be a franchise from the beginning than some of the other ones were.
It wasn't, though,
think so.
Because the original draft of the script and the original, the original draft of the script was supposed to be a standalone, and they actually parted ways at the end. And the original movie that they shot had an alternate ending that I don't think we talked about last time, where Riggs decides he's going to leave town, and he tells Murtaugh, and Murtaugh decides he's going to retire, and Riggs says, "Don't retire, you're too good a cop," and then they say goodbye and leave.
Yeah,
never
but I'm not
to see
talking
each
about
other
the
again.
Scripts. I'm talking about the finished products that we got.
Well, that was the finished. I mean, that's what I'm saying. They shot that ending. That was.
But they didn't show it to anyone.
Well,
I
yeah,
didn't see it.
But I don't think they changed the ending because they were hoping for a sequel. I think they changed the ending because they wanted it. I mean, I know they said they changed the ending because they wanted to have more of a. It was about family, and they were about Riggs finding a family, so they wanted him to come to Christmas dinner. At the end.
Even this movie had an alternate ending that they showed to test audiences, and they didn't like because it showed Riggs died.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been dumb. They were like, they saw dollar signs. They were like, we can't kill him.
At this point, too, this was a little before everything became a franchise. Now it's like, you know, like this sort of set up. I think this movie and Die Hard and movies like this was like the era where they realized, oh, if you have
Action
a hit movie,
movies could do this.
You could have 8 hit movies. You know, like just keep on playing out the same. You never have to think of a new idea again. And now that's gotten out of control. But the instinct when this movie was made wasn't to constantly be setting up the next big thing. But I do think it lends itself to that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think that's more my argument is that from the beginning it's so conceptually simple that it lends itself very much to being franchised and being installments of because it is just like
Recurring.
Crazy Cop and Old Cop, and like that's like like there's a bigger story there, but you don't need that to keep churning out more stuff, you know?
I would say like Rush Hour is like the 90s iteration of this.
Yeah. I mean, this was what every buddy cop movie between then. I mean, I'm sure Tango and Cash, they really expected to have a run of 18 sequels on that one, because how could you go wrong? But like, I think every buddy cop movie was
It takes 2 to tango.
Yeah.
The magic is back.
The magic is back.
Oh my God! Wait, we could still do a Tango and Cash sequel. Let's write that as a spec script. I'm pretty sure we can get Stallone and Kurt Russell on board. We have I think we got the most important thing, which is the taglines. We have multiple taglines.
You know, I always used to get confused Tango and Cash and the other one like Turner and Hooch or whatever the one where the buddy cop is a dog.
Think and Hooch,
yeah.
It's one of those. Also K9 with Chuck Norris. I think it's interesting, like you said, about the villains not being very interesting, and also it's a old guy and a young guy partnership. Well, both the villains are sort of like doubles of the heroes in both these movies. It's an old guy who's in charge and a young guy who's kind of a loose cannon and way more dangerous. And in both movies, Riggs kills the young guy and Murtaugh kills the old guy. And I can't even remember enough about the third movie to remember, or the fourth movie. I know the fourth movie doesn't go in that same idea, but the third one, I can't remember.
I know who the villain is in the fourth movie. I feel like they finally got it. They needed like a memorable villain.
But I think and it's turned out to be the only redeeming quality as I remember it. It'll be interesting to rewatch that one. But yeah, I think it's funny how they just basically, we don't knock this movie enough for being just a recycled version of the first one. Like Die Hard 2 is the same exact goddamn movie in an airport, whereas this one is like, but they didn't really reinvent anything. They got a lot of the exact same tropes and story beats involved, including having basically mirror images of the original villains. They're both drug dealers up to some bad shit who have like mercenaries at their disposal and are an old guy and a young guy who's sort of his muscle.
Dude, these guys murder so many people.
Yeah. Oh, she looks so good under the water, though.
Yeah, she plays dead really well.
Yeah,
do you think that was a
not
dummy,
breathing
or
or
do you think that
anything.
was
It's
actually
very
her?
convincing.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think it was just her.
The other thing about the villains is like they're so topical of 1989. Let's talk about the situation in South Africa. You know, it's like it's very a litmus test of the time period or whatever. I don't know
Could
what
you
the word I'm
imagine
looking for is.
if the theme of this movie was "We Are the World"?
I was going to say, in the original script, it was actually whaling, the whaling industry that they were tackling. They were saving
Really?
the whales. Yep,
No.
that's it.
Okay.
Colin, you're so. I love how credulous you are when I say things that are obviously false.
Dude, anytime Harris says anything, I'm like, just believe him. Just believe him. Colin. And I know he's not.
No, I just read here that this Lethal Weapon has the highest body count of any Lethal Weapon movie, 33.
Yeah, I believe
Wow.
that. Like on one hand, I believe that, and on the other hand, that body count sounds a little low.
It does sound. The number
yeah.
sounds low, but yeah.
I bet they forgot that police car guy who got blown up in the very beginning.
Yeah.
Like all of us did.
Yeah.
I was gonna say before that this movie has the luxury of like the first movie had mentioned that his wife died, but they, other than that and him almost like killing himself, they didn't really go into that story or into his emotions like anymore.
They said
So,
car
like, this
accident in the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Car accident isn't an emotion though. So.
It's not. Nope.
Right, exactly. Not yet. But so they had that ability here to like make something of that, take that like crumb that we got and turn it into a meal. So I think that added an extra like twist or an extra like beat at the end to make the villains a little more personal and a little more villainous. But I don't know how they could do that
It
again.
seemed a little contrived to me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But that is sort of.
It felt like the stakes weren't high enough, and then until they inserted that actual point, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, Riggs is pissed now.
This
Before
time,
you're like-
it's personal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Should we play the game? Are you guys ready?
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I forgot to study for the game.
Who's it going to be?
Yeah.
Pesci? Is it Pesci?
I was gonna do Richard Donner, but I think I'm gonna do Pesci. Unless
I'd probably do
did
okay on the
you look?
Richard Donner one.
I would too on Donner. Whatever.
I'm excited for Pesci.
All right, so Christian, we play a little game called Top 4, where we have to guess without looking. Don't look it up. We have to guess the top 4 films of an actor's career according to IMDb.
Like what they're most known for, or what top four.
well, we don't know how IMDb
Okay.
figures it
It's
out.
Oh,
but-
pretty
whatever
much
it says
random.
on their main page.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, you know how it says they're known for, and then
Yeah,
it shows
so
4
known
movie
for, okay.
posters. Yeah. Okay, cool. So we take turns. You guys take one guess each, and then we'll kind of go around like a round
And we're
robin.
gonna do
kind of
Joe Pesci.
Joe Pesci. Yeah.
Okay. Who goes first?
So who wants to go first?
Um,
Harris, did you win last time?
I think I
you gotta-
did.
You can go first.
Okay, I will go first. I am going to guess Goodfellas.
That's provocative.
Ding, ding, ding.
All right.
Yep.
I think that's the
Right
only
off the
safe
bat.
one. That is literally the
Yeah.
only one that I
Super
was
safe.
like, yeah.
I think this Joe Pesci one should be easier than Mel Gibson's was.
Okay.
Christian, you go next.
Home Alone.
Look stupid. See if I give a fuck.
Yes, good
Sorry, that is a good guess, but no cigar.
My turn.
Colin? Yeah.
I'm going to guess My Cousin Vinny with the fabulous Marissa
guess.
Tomei.
That's provocative.
Excellent guess, and that is correct.
Marissa
So we've got-
Tomei. Yes. I'm just saying her name.
Two Utes. Two Utes.
2 Utes.
So we got My Cousin Vinny and Goodfellas. We got 2 left. Harris, you're up again.
There's the idiot in me that really wants to guess the super or Gone Fishing, because that would be
That would
hilarious.
be idiotic.
But
8 heads in a duffel bag.
yeah, I know that it's gonna be. I know that there's gonna be one Lethal Weapon in there, probably Lethal Weapon 3. But I'm going to guess Casino.
Fuck you.
Sorry.
Oh, that was a
is
good guess.
incorrect.
I'm
Yeah.
Very
surprised.
good guess. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
All right, Christian, you're up
Okay.
again.
If it's Gone Fishing, I'm gonna kick myself.
Let me think. Watch it be like Home Alone 2. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. What was that new one? The Irishman.
That's provocative.
Ding, ding,
That's
ding.
what I was gonna guess.
Yes.
Yes. You got it.
There you go.
Wow.
Oh wow. Okay.
Wow. All right, so
It's
we got-
rare that their most recent movies are what they're known for. Okay,
I think it has something to do with box office.
probably.
Colin, you're up.
I'm gonna go with Lethal Weapon 2. This movie.
Get the fuck out!
Sorry, incorrect. Yeah. All right, so now it's the hint round. So we've all guessed. You've all gone around twice. There's one movie left. So far, we've got Goodfellas, The Irishman, and My Cousin Vinny. The one remaining. Let's see. What hint could I give? It's about a real person.
The Irishman.
I am gonna guess. Can't remember if he was in this movie, but I'm gonna guess Hoffa.
No!
No, that is wrong. He was already in a movie about Jimmy Hoffa.
Well, that doesn't mean he
called
can't
The
be in two.
Irishman. Kristian, you are up. I'll give you another hint. It's from the 1980s.
The 1980s. So it's before this, man. What has he done before?
It is before this. I'll give you that.
Oh, I know what it is. Oh God. Damn it.
I honestly don't know.
But I will give you one more chance.
All right, so we'll give Colin one more shot, and then I'll just tell you guys what it is.
Fishing.
It's
That
Raging
is
Bull.
a
isn't it?
90s classic. It's Raging Bull, yeah.
Damn it. I should have thought more. I could have gotten that.
You don't care.
I always forget he's in that because I don't know.
Yep, because he
Yeah,
doesn't
when the
look
same
anything
actors
like.
and the same directors almost all their movies, it's hard to remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he's playing Robert De Niro's brother, despite the fact that they don't look anything alike. They barely look like the same species in that movie.
All right, so should we rate this thing? Are we
Yeah,
there
sure.
yet?
Yo, wait, you
Yeah,
guys
there.
didn't talk about the whole full circle reference payoff pun at the end of the movie.
Oh,
Decaffeinated?
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, God.
That was real good.
That
That was
pretty good.
excellent.
Pretty brutal.
When I saw that, I was like, Colin is laughing right now.
Yeah. I also love that he's like holding him in his arms and they're like chuckling together as he's like maybe bleeding. Or whatever.
Yeah,
I also
he's
love
been-
that his hint that he's not dying is, "Hey, will you throw my cigarettes away for me? Throw my
Yeah.
cigarettes for me. I'm not dying." Oh, you got me, man.
Yeah, they're like suddenly he's relieved, and at the same time, this guy suffered many gunshot wounds. He might be feeling okay. If he's feeling good right now, he may be going into shock because he's
Right.
lost a lot of blood and he's about to die. You know, like that.
Yeah.
That's not a good sign.
They even like kind of tease the audience, like, "Oh, where did you get shot? I'm not gonna tell you." Like, why? Like, why would you have that conversation if there wasn't an audience who wants to know where you got shot? You know, like.
Multiple times in the genitals. That's why I'd rather not talk about it. Thank you. I've got a question before we jump into the conclusion. Speaking of the hilarious last line, was this movie actually funny? I watched Beverly Hills Cop 2 recently, and I think that movie was actually pretty funny. And I feel like there's like 48 Hours is more comedy than action movie. And this movie is definitely more action, like Lethal Weapon is more action than comedy, but I feel like it's got this reputation as actually being funny. And I know I went into it watching it thinking that it was funny, and I found myself laughing very infrequently. So I guess that's my question. Is this actually an action comedy, or is it just an action movie with a bunch of dad jokes that nobody laughs at?
IMDb critiques it as a action crime thriller. Comedy's not even in there.
Okay.
Wow. And that's
All right.
3 other things.
Yeah, which it is. You could argue they are all 3 of those.
There are crimes. There are some thrilling moments.
Yeah, but what is the crime, really?
I think it's something Krugerrands.
Freddy Krueger hands.
Arcade tokens.
The crime is Freddy Krueger.
Ripped off golden nipples.
They ripped off an arcade. That's the crime. Chuck E. Cheese is pissed.
He actually had one of those machines with the shelves that go back and forth in his trunk.
You have to drop the quarter in like
Yeah.
at the right time.
Yeah, if this was a true comedy, the second that trunk poured open, it would have been like ding 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 ding.
You're right.
All the coins were pulling out.
But we were thrown off. We were thrown off by that.
Yeah.
I was going to say, at the same time, this is just cheesy enough that would not feel totally out of place, like a
Right.
musical cue that like went too far.
This movie had a couple of good key like throwbacks to the first movie that I thought were nice. Whereas like if they were done today, they would overdo it. Like there's a part where Mel Gibson is watching the Three Stooges on TV, and he laughs or whatever. When we know he did the Three Stooges gag like in the first movie,
Yeah.
I feel like if that were done today, you know, someone would be in the room and they'd be like, "Hey, remember when you did that Three Stooges thing in the last movie?" You know, like they would just kind of put it in your face a little.
Although he does yell "Hey Mo" twice in this movie.
Oh,
once
that's
when
right.
he shoots a fish tank, and once when he grabs a guy and snaps his neck despite having a dislocated arm.
Yep.
Which I feel like that's like one time, okay, good, funny, I guess. The second time, is this his catchphrase now? Yelling "Hey Mo" in a falsetto?
What about all his Adolf jokes? Yeah.
Right. He makes
Yes.
that Adolf Aryan joke twice.
More than
in the
twice.
movie, and it's
more
not
than
funny.
twice. He says it like 5 times.
Well, he
says
just
it a
calls the
bunch.
guy Adolf. After the first time, he calls the one guy Adolf.
But he does that thing
Every
where he's
time.
like, Arjun. He says the guy's name correctly.
Right.
And he's like, "What's your name?" Arjun, Adolf Aryan, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just not funny.
it's a little
'cause you
forced.
said the name correctly.
And making fun of racists is, I don't know, methinks thou dost protest too much, Mel Gibson. Like, I don't know.
Well, it's kind of
Right.
performative. It's like he knows he needs
Yeah.
to make fun of them for being racist,
Yeah.
but like, why
Yeah.
does he know that he needs to do that so bad? You know, like,
He knew better than us at this point.
I guess.
Yeah, it's Mel Gibson's smokescreen, elaborate smokescreen. All my movies have to be about a guy who just hates racists.
Here's what I don't get about this finale. They find the big shipping container full of hundreds of millions of dollars, and after they've murdered many people, straight up committed murder,
Like they're
and
going
killed
to
these
life
people.
for jail.
Yeah. He grabs some of the money off the stack and he's like, "Oh yeah, I could put all my kids through college with this. Too bad I'm not a dirty cop." And he puts it back. and then they blow the money up and pour it out into the ocean.
As long
does
as
that
the
make
drug dealers
sense?
didn't get it.
Littering, I know.
In their defense, they didn't intentionally pour the money out into the ocean. They did it by driving a BMW or Mercedes?
Probably.
A car.
There's some
Yeah.
fancy luxury car in there with the money. Why are they shipping a luxury car with the money? I don't know. Never explained. But they drive it through like out of the shipping container. They're trapped in this shipping container, and they drive this car through floor to ceiling stacks, maybe about 15 feet deep of dollar bills, which at that point is just a wall. It's not like
Right.
you could drive through a pile of dollar bills like it's a pile of leaves. But once you start stacking them in enormous blocks, they're pretty solid. But they drive the car out. The car explodes in midair for some reason, unclear why. And
I
then they
thought that was
rappel.
weird.
Then they rappel out of the shipping container on ropes that are
That
conveniently
magically
placed
appear.
there.
Yeah. You keep saying they drive the car. They're not in the car. The car
yeah.
explodes.
Yeah, also,
and
I
they're
don't
not
think
in
that
it.
car would have enough room, driving
driving
to
speed?
get up to a speed that would blast out. You know how hard it is to open one of those doors on those things?
Right. I'll do you one better. I think even if that car was at a full speed at 60 miles an hour, if it hit a block of money and a closed door like that, it would probably smash into a million pieces far more than the money would. And I also love how the way they get the drop on the guys after they send the car flying out is that all the guys assume that they were driving the car
Right.
60 feet down into the water. Like that's their escape plan, and they start shooting at this car underwater rather than looking up at the shipping container.
They couldn't see anything, so they just start spraying bullets into the water.
Into the water, which by the way, also, you know how they test ballistics on guns is they spray it into 4 feet of water.
Yeah.
Because that's about how much it takes to make a bullet stop, so you can go ahead and shoot the water all you want, but you're not going to get the penetration that you really need to kill a bunch of guys who are in a car under the water. If that's your plan.
Especially because they're not in a car under the water, very clearly.
Right. Because they're
What
not idiots.
would have made more sense is instead of money being in that container, if it was a bunch of ice skates and hockey sticks.
Yes. I'm so stoked.
All right, with that, let's rate this thing. Colin, why don't you go first this time? Let's get Colin out of the way.
All right, I'll go first. Yeah, this movie, it's it's more comedic. It's also more unintentionally funny, and that's good. I feel like a lot like the first one, this movie really falls apart in the end because they totally dropped the whole diplomatic immunity thing and kind of dropped the fact that they're cops at all. And they just start fucking killing people, and they just do murder after murder. And yeah, it became personal, and the bad guys did murder a lot of other people also. But all of this continues to make the reality of this movie seem not like any reality there is at all. And yeah, the thing I don't like about these movies is, basically the idea that police officers can do whatever they want and kill whatever they want and kill whoever they want and not ever get fired or punished in any way. And so that's the problem with the Lethal Weapon movies, and it's definitely a problem here. But I love Danny Glover. He is great. A lot of what Harris was talking about with the comedy, he brought up other movies that are similar that actually have comedians in them. Danny Glover isn't a comedian, but his ability to react and listen makes the ridiculousness of everything that's going on just seem humorous. And so I'm gonna give it I gave the last one a 7. This one's also gonna get a 7. 7 Timothy Dolphins. Timothy Dolphin coming in here with his sidekicks Timony and Jiminy Dolphins. You guys remember that? That's like a reference to the Exorcist episode, Exorcist Dominion. We talked
if you
about
have to explain it, I'm kidding.
You're on this podcast. you're
Once the show is over, we completely forget.
I don't listen to this podcast. I'm not a subscriber.
What am I, an idiot?
It's like after each show, you have to go find a 2x4 and hit yourself in the head as hard as you possibly can right after the show is over. That way, every time you go into a new show, you're fresh.
Yeah, coming in fresh and ready.
With brain damage.
All right, I'd like to go next. I enjoyed this movie, as I said before. I enjoyed this movie much more than the first one. I don't think it was funny either, but I think its overall tone was lighter, and it made the movie a little. I feel like the pacing was light and fun and quick, and the banter was there, and the jokes weren't like ha-ha jokes, but they were enough to get the scene moving as much as it needed to go. I don't know. I liked the ending. I know Colin didn't like the third act, but I kind of like the change of location. And I mean, yeah, it was problematic, but it was fun. And I like decaffeinated. Something about this movie, it had some charm that I liked. I don't know. Maybe it reminds me of Die Hard or something. I don't know why, but I gave Lethal Weapon 1 a 6, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm going to also give this one a 7. 7 Timothy Dolphins.
Cool. Is it my turn? Whose turn is it?
Kristian, you can go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is Timothy Dolphin the standard of measure around here?
It is, yes.
Okay.
You mean it's not in other places?
I just want to make sure all of my my measurements are adjusted and translated to what you guys use. So, as I told you before, I'm a big fan of 80s cinema, and I agree with a lot with what Colin said and what Matt said. This isn't necessarily a comedy, but I think for me, it's all about the relationship between Riggs and Murtaugh, and just seeing their relationship and frustrations with each other. They're actually relatable, even though what's happening in the movie is outrageous. And I think that's really what I connected with this movie the most, is just their relationship and how the things that they go through. And the action is over the top, which at this point in the 80s, every 80s action movie was trying to outdo the previous one. So the fact that there were so many deaths, and in Lethal Weapon 1, Riggs was the lethal weapon, so it kind of plays perfect in this movie that they just let all their inhibitions go and murder everybody, and they're both lethal weapons, so there's 2 lethal weapons. That's kind of what I like to say. But, I really like this. I do like it better than the first one. And thinking about it, I gotta watch the other two. I haven't, but this one might be my favorite one. I need to rewatch the other two to see, but I think this one might be my favorite one. Just because it's the most 80s of all four of them as far as action movies go. So with that, I would give it probably 7.5. Timothy Dolphins. And a Krugerrand. Throw a Krugerrand.
Oh, that rounds up.
Yeah,
So
that definitely rounds up.
The Freddy Krueger hand brings it up to an 8.
Yeah, I feel like you guys all nailed it. Like every one of you made points that I think I would have wanted to make if you guys didn't make them. I'm not going to repeat them.
All right, so that's the end of the show.
Yeah, no, I don't have a lot more to say except that like growing up, I feel like this was always my favorite of the Lethal Weapon movies. And I was amazed at how many scenes I remembered that I thought were in the first one, but were actually in this one. I feel like they took that formula and improved on it. The villains are worse, but I feel like everything else is the same. And the ending doesn't make any fucking sense, and it's totally stupid. And yet, that did not bother me at all.
Exactly.
So I was on the fence. I feel like it's I think I gave the first one a 7, and that was like a very generous 7. And I feel like I could give this one like an equally generous 8. I feel like this one is also a 7, but I'm going to bump it up a little bit because it is, I think, really good for what it is. 8 Timothy Dolphins.
I think one thing about this movie that we failed to mention and why it's probably so great is not only because of Mel Gibson's luscious locks, but also because of his use of plaid shirts. I noticed in the beginning is it plaid or flannel? I thought is like
what's the material? Flannel's the material, so yeah, but there's still plaid.
He wears that blue plaid shirt for like several days without changing. Like I noticed that in the beginning when he's like talking to Murtaugh's
Did you notice
wife.
when he's looking for a new shirt, he's like, "Where does Trish keep my laundry?"
Yeah, I was confused in the beginning. I thought he was living with Murtaugh because he was there so much, and like that bit with the laundry.
But he doesn't have a washing machine and a dryer at his luxurious beach house. By the way, this is another thing. Like, I understand that Mel Gibson's a very handsome man, but even if the character wasn't totally obnoxious, he's kind of disgusting. He lives in an absolute shithole. You know he does not bathe regularly. He probably never washes. We just said he wears the same clothes day after day after day. His hair is like delightfully feathered somehow, despite the fact that you know that like he hasn't washed it. He's just getting out of bed, and we're supposed to believe that's his bedhead hair. Like he's chain smokes like a motherfucker. He does not smell good. This man does not smell good, and women should not be throwing themselves at him like they are in this.
They're
movie.
not. He's
even
dragging
in the 80s.
him out of the supermarket to his
trying to, well, they're also trying to get him to jump in the hot tub with them.
Yeah, he also clearly has issues with the former wife, and also he, instead of using the gun holster, I don't know if you guys noticed this, he sticks the gun directly in his pants a lot.
It's like in his
and
underwear.
That's basically that's basically like touching your genitals a lot in public. You know, that's a little bit of a faux pas, I guess.
So I want to refine my complaint here a little bit, because all of a sudden, now that you've said that, Colin, it's making more sense to me, because, you know, the wedding ring is definitely a turn on. A lot of women are into that. The gun means he's either a gangster or he's a cop, so he's definitely got a job, though. So like now I'm seeing that like the women in the 80s, I guess they were just a little desperate. They're like, okay, he smells like an ashtray. He clearly is wearing clothes that have stains all over them. He lives in a fucking trailer on the beach. I think he's squatting there. On the other hand,
yeah, he's not paying rent.
On the other hand, got a job, and I think he might be married. So, you know, kind of jealous. He's willing to commit. Yeah.
I love how I said two things to agree with what you were saying, and as soon as I said them, you completely flipped the script on everything you thought.
Yeah, you made a good. What can I say? You made a good argument why I was wrong.
There was one more thing. Didn't you say Kristian is in some way related to being of Norwegian descent or something like that?
Oh yeah,
yes.
Dude. So we are like the 17th biggest movie review podcast.
15th.
Oh, 15th.
Yeah.
We're moving on up.
In Norway?
In Norway, yeah.
Wow.
The Vikings
so
love good taste.
Yeah. Shout out to our many Norwegian fans.
Yeah, a long time ago we made a guarantee that if we ever climb to #1 on the Norwegian charts, we'll have to go there.
Yep. Yeah, so spread the word, people.
I'll be your tour guide. I'll be your
Yeah.
translator.
I'm gonna enjoy it so much. I'm gonna be out there. I'm gonna be getting drunk and disfjorderly, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, God.
I wrote that joke days in advance.
Kristian, do you want to say a little something for our Norwegian listeners out there?
Sure. Let's see here. How about this? What would you guys want me to say if I could say something? Because otherwise, I'm just gonna talk some crap about you guys, and they're all gonna laugh.
Well, I assume they also speak English, or else I don't know why they'd be listening to this podcast.
They like
Well,
us.
if they're still listening at this point in the show, then they're super fans, and you should tell them that we love them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tack alle sammen för att du hörde på detta podcast. Vi är väldigt glada att du liker att höra på den. Tusen tack.
All right.
Excellent.
There you go.
Nice.
I just said exactly what you said.
He said we love you, which is why it's just tough to communicate in Norwegian because it's like 18 words for every one.
I just said thanks. Just thanks. All that was just thanks.
I'm certain he was saying something bad about it. He's like, these fucking idiots, I can't believe they're 15.
Maybe
I'm
you'll
wasting
find
my
out in the
time here.
comments.
Yeah. All right, so any of our listeners from Norway can reach out to us on Twitter or Instagram and let us know what he really said about us.
Or the Patreon page. Or the Patreon. Go
Or
to
the Patreon page, yes.
Yes, tell them about the one where they need to spend money.
You guys should start taking Krugerrands at this point.
Oh, yeah.
should.
One American dollar or one gold Krugerrand, whichever you prefer.
I think they're called Bitcoins now. Bitcoins.
Also, if we ever do go to Norway and we have any kind of disagreement while we're there, just know right now my response is going to be, well, it's Norway or the highway, bud.
All right.
I wanted to say that for so long.
Kristian, do you have anything going on in your life that you want to plug? What do you do?
Normally, I have a YouTube channel, One Minute Critic. Maybe you've heard of me, maybe you haven't. I'm on Instagram and Twitter, and it's the number 1 Minute Critic written out. If you want to follow me personally, it's Kreshjun. That's KRESHJUN on Twitter. That's probably the best one to reach out to me on. I respond to almost everything there. And that's pretty much it. I mean, it was awesome being a part of this. And
How can people find 1 Minute Critic if they just look it up on YouTube?
yeah, if you look that up on YouTube, you'll find it.
Cool. Well, thanks for doing this with us. I hope you had fun.
Oh yeah, great time. Love to come back, man. It was a really good time.
All right. Sounds good to
for
me.
Sure. All right, everyone. How should we do some sort of Three Stooges thing to like take us out?
Oh,
I'm
Free
just going to
Mandela.
invoke my diplomatic immunity to stay out of all of this.
Yeah, free Mandela.
Diplomatic immunity revoked.